Here we go. I want to read, but this time I want to read and not have any issues with Twitch while I'm at it. Mainly the internet, because the internet has issues or some shit like that. And not have any issues with Twitch while I'm at it. Mainly the internet, because the internet has issues or some shit like that. And not have any issues with. Cool. Pog, it works. Alright, make funny tweet. Okay, so maybe, if we're lucky, I'm just saying, if we're lucky, I could actually be able to stream Higurashi with no issues. I halfway doubt that. I have this, like, sense of fear in the back of my mind that's telling me, you won't get this done. You will fail where you have started. You mere mortal. That's the vibe I'm kind of getting, but we'll see. Alright.
あの男がその年のたたりの犠牲者を決めている。
Maybe I should turn down the audio just a bit. I seem to do that in every stream I've noticed. I don't know how low I should turn it. Alright.
と噂されているからです。
Alright, so right, we were explaining stuff of like the curse and everything, and then I wanted to die afterwards. Whenever June came around, Oishi would start paying frequent visits to Hinamizawa.
亡くなったり消えたりする人たちの多くがあの男の必要な訪問を受けているからです。
Bitch, I was fixed to say, we just started. I don't need this shit now. I looked over to OBS and I immediately wanted to throw it. 4 years ago, it was known that the victim of dismemberment, rumored to be the sacrifice, had been seeing Oishi numerous times leading up to the incident. The sacrifices 3 years ago were Satoko's parents. Right before their accidental deaths, Oishi had apparently visited their home. The one who disappeared 2 years ago was Rika-chan's mother. And again, people know that before she vanished, Oishi was talking to her extremely frequently. The one who disappeared last year, Satoko's older brother, Satoshi. Satoshi too had apparently been approached by Oishi many times before he vanished. That's indicating that I'm gonna vanish, right? Because apparently Oishi wanted to talk to me. Or no, maybe he wants to get rid of Satoko. But that's what it's implying. We don't know if this is actually the case. We know how Higurashi likes to fucking throw some curveballs and shit at us. So who knows, this might not even be the case, and we're probably just jumping the gun. And then this year, this time, Oishi was trying to contact Satoko?
冗談じゃないです。噂ですよ、前原さん。そういう噂があるというだけです。
I hadn't said that because of the rumors of Oishi being Oishiro-sama's servant, or his contacting someone foreshadowing who would be the sacrifice that year. It was because the ominous hatred I felt towards Oishi was becoming more whatever that word is, more real.
さとこ今日欠席したじゃないですか。
え、そうなんですか。
That looked to seem to be like it was news to Coach. I had thought he might have known why Satoko was absent today, but I guess not.
では失礼します。前原君も早くみんなのところに行って。
そうですね。そうします。
Clatter. Coach left the nurse's office and headed towards the teacher's lounge. I don't like Oishi in this chapter, I'm just gonna be honest. I don't like him at all. He's fucking crazy. Can I read the tips? I would love to read the tips. Here we go. Alright, research notes. The Hojo family. Every year, Oyashiro-sama's curse claims 2 victims. That means that the 4 years in the role there have been 8 now. But it's worthwhile to note that half of them have been members of this family. Note, the curse on the second year, a certain falling accident, involved the death of Hojo, the damn proponent, whatever the fuck that word is, and the disappearance of his wife. She was pronounced dead the following year after being considered to have vanished under perilous circumstances. The curse on the 4th year involved the death of the Hojo's sibling's aunt, who had been their foster mother, and the disappearance of the elder brother. The Hojo family is a poor one, and it's hard to say Mr. Hojo's job went very well. Apparently, upon re-employment via family connections, there was a plan for them to return home of the mother's side of the family. For Mr. Hojo, the eviction due to the Hinamizawa Dam project and the payment of the large amount of compensation money was essentially a windfall. Mr. Hojo actively embraced the Ministry of Construction's negotiations from the early stage and was selected as representative of the dam I can't. Fuck that word. I hate it. It was rumored that he had brought out the Ministry of Construction for doing so, but the truth is yet to be known. However, the dams... Oh my god! We're vastly outnumbered minority. In addition, as the Sonozaki family strengthened its own foundation and promised to support against the dam, all the... God have support... Jesus. At this point, Hinamizawa was completely united against the dam, and Mr. Hojo was held up to ridiculed as a stooge for the dam projects. Yeah. He was essentially used as a scapegoat for the anti-dam coalition. In the end, the dam project collapsed with Oyashiro-sama's curse and the dismemberment incident. However, punishment towards the bitter enemies supporting the dam project continues to this day. There's not many left today who supported the dam project, nor who had a negative reputation at the time. If there are any candidates left for the curse, it's the husband of the housewife who had been beaten to death last year, Teppei Hojo, and Mr. Hojo's daughter, Sataka Hojo. Strangely, those two are the only candidates left. Will this year's curse come down on the two of them? There is more than enough value in observing them both. Alright, and then Oishi's post memo. Or was it Momo or memo? It doesn't matter. To Oishi-san. There was a call for you in Section 4's chief. Apparently, the slaughtered corpse of the Ojikawa River is related to the S group, as we thought. We're still verifying what happened behind the scenes, but apparently deceased filed up dozens of self-created fictional bank accounts to their limits with money from the S group, reaching around 100 million yen. What's the S group? It appears that there were 3 or 4 men with the former S group connections. I can only think of like Zonozaki, but I don't think they refer to it as just the S group. They would just refer to them as the Sonozakis. They've already disappeared along with millions of yen. The deceased was tortured on that point of formation, and she was clearly slaughtered as an example to others. There's already some real wizards chasing down the people who disappeared. They're already spreading letters related to Yakuza groups and not to harbor them. There's still no evidence that Teppei Hojo is one of those people. As far as Chief Suryu can tell, he hasn't told them anything. He was her pimp, but she didn't trust him at all now, did she? Teppei Hojo was left in the apartment in Okonomiya and has returned to his former residence in Hinamizawa. Get the fuck out, bitch. Okay, those were the tips. Chapter 5, so we're on chapter 6 now. Well, chapter 6 of chapter 3. That's never gonna...
守りたいと思う心に嘘はなかった。大切にしたいと思う心は 誰よりも強いはずだった。優しさから生まれた感情はやがて殺意へと変わり、真っ白だった思いは赤と黒で染まってゆく。それが守りたかった日常の崩壊を意味していると分かっていながら、たたり殺し、何が間違っていたのか、その答えを探して悲劇はさらに
Who's
広がっ
saying
てゆく。
this? I was thinking it was either Reina
北
or
条さんは今日もお休みですか。古出さんは何か知っていますか？
The teacher's voice wasn't critical, but Rika-chan hung her head, unable to answer, and I felt really bad for her. The teacher called Rika-chan up and they had an exchange in hushed tones at the dais. At first, Rika-chan said that Satoko's fever had grown worse, but everyone in the class knew it was a lie. Because every day Rika-chan brought Satoko's bento with her.
さとこちゃん、どうしちゃったんだろうね。
俺が知るかよ。
I'm the one who wants to know most of all. It was already the third day since Satoko's first absence. Ever since then, I haven't felt good. Until just last Sunday, everything had been so much fun. I had reached out to Satoko like a real brother. And we spent that time quietly, but warm and comfortable. So, why it has suddenly been flipped over? The more I thought about it, the more I thought that the world had taken a turn for the worse ever since Oishi arrived. Thinking on it now, maybe the strange apprehensions plaguing me the night before Oishi arrived had been a sign. Koradu... What the fuck? Oishi, anyway, Oyashiro-sama's servant.
くそ、そんなことあるもんか。あいつが現れたから聡子が今年のたたりに合う役だなんて決められてたまるかよ。
It just sort of slipped up and I had come and committed to cause these fun times to end so. Yes, it was the day before Oishi even arrived. Shion, Mion, and Reina had spoken of the curse surrounding Satoshi and his disappearance, and it was sinister. It was so sinister that it gave me a bad yeah. Such a small thing was the slip up. That is what invited Oyashiro-sama's servant? It was absurd. I kept on groaning to myself that I would never accept it, ever. I obviously wasn't the only one suppressing my feelings. Mion and Reina were too. Everyone in class was doing it. Rika-chan knew something about Satoko's situation, but she would not tell us. Rika-chan still held a calm attitude, like a cat basking in the sun. But she was still unbelievably stubborn about this whole thing. She didn't want to tell us, and that wouldn't change no matter how many times we asked her. Everyone understood that, so no one questioned her.
リカちゃんが言わないならさ、言うまで待つしかないよね。逆に言わないってことは言う必要もない程度のことかもしれないし。
There was no persuasive power in reassurance given in an anxious face like that. Mion was being taciturn and just looked at the sky with somehow annoyed expression. I couldn't tell if she was unhappy that Rika-chan wouldn't talk about it with her own friends, or if she was concerned over Satoko's well-being. And what about me? My anxiety was suffocating me day after day. If someone else were looking at me, then I'd maybe look a bit annoyed, like Mion did. Tap tap. Someone tapped my shoulder. It was Tomata-kun and Okamura-kun.
前原さん、ちょっといいですか？
またボールが引っかかったか？今度はお前たちで何とかしてみろよ。いつまでも先輩に頼るのは良くないぜ。
I didn't feel like going along with them, so I was a little unsympathetic with my response.
ちょっと気になる噂を聞いたんすよ。
Do I look like I care about your little shitty rumor? I don't think I do.
噂？
はい。ひょっとすると関係があるかもと思って。
A rumor about Satoko. They hadn't said that, but it didn't seem unrelated. They didn't want to talk in the classroom, so they pulled me behind the school building, leading further credence to that thought. The back of the school was damp and humid, like always. Students didn't really come here because they wanted to. It might, however, have been the ideal occasion for trading rumors away from prying eyes.
富田君、岡村君、その噂話ってもちろん聡子の欠席と関係のある話なんだろうな。
関係があるかはわからないですけど、あるいは
聡子は一体どうしたってんだ？風邪なのか？それともひょっとしてもっと重い病気か怪我か何かで？
いえ、それが
What do you mean, actually?
むしろ逆で、うちのばあちゃんの話だと昨日の昼にうちの店に豆腐を買いに来たらしいんです。
Oh, Tomata's family runs a tofu shop, added Okamura-kun.
豆腐屋さんに買い物？
My voice sounded stupid. What the fuck? It was understandable. I was worried about what grave illness or injury she had when a person herself had been out and about shopping for tofu.
で、聡子はどうだったんだよ？元気そうだったのか？それとも病み上がりでマスクでもしてたとか、松葉杖で包帯だらけだったとか？
いえ、別に病気とか怪我とかそういうわけじゃなかったらしいんですが。
I should have felt relieved that it wasn't an illness or injury, but my anxiety was not going away. Because Tomata-kun and Okamura-kun's expressions weren't looking any better themselves.
絹ごし豆腐を一丁買っていったそうなんですが、ばあちゃんが言うにはおかしいと。
おかしい？なぜ？絹ごし豆腐を買って何が悪い？
Irritated by how roundabout they were being, I had to desperately fight that irritation from creeping into my voice.
北条とフルデってほら二人暮らしでそんなにお金持ちってわけじゃないですよね。だから二人はいつも安い木綿豆腐しか買わないんです。一番高い絹ごし豆腐なんか買ったことないんです。
木綿だって絹ごしだってどっちも豆腐だろ？たまにはうまい豆腐が食いたくなっただけかもしれないじゃないか。
それはそうですけど。
I know how transparent I sound right then. This wasn't anything trivial. It was some kind of important clue. Not the cheap firm tofu, but the expensive soft kind. Shopping not in the evening after school, but in the middle of the day. I couldn't figure out what those meant. I thought hard about it. Okamura-kun took his turn to speak.
次は僕っすね。これも噂なんですけど、帰ってきたらしいんですよ。
帰ってきた？何が？誰が？
北条のおじさんが。
Fun! I'd love to hear more about him, totally. As I strangle him. What? I didn't say anything. I'm totally, nice. 100%, totally. Anyways, let's talk about it. Satoko's uncle. Right. I think Coach told me about him. Their aunt and uncle had taken them in after Satoko and Satoshi lost their parents in the accident.
去年のお社様のたたりで怖くなって町に逃げたっていう北条のおじさんです。こいつヤクザみたいな怖くて乱暴なやつで。
Everything Coach told me came back in bits by pieces. Right. The mean aunt and uncle who had tormented them all the time. I think he said after their aunt was beaten to death by a deviant, he ran away to his lover's house in Okonomiya in fear of the curse.
そいつが帰ってくるとどうして聡子が学校を休んで真っ昼間に絹ごし豆腐を買う羽目になるんだ
My underclassmen clammed up and looked downwards. There must have been some big hint buried in there. Even I didn't understand. If I told Mion and Reina about it, maybe they'd know something.
ごめんな二人ともせっかく好意で話を聞かせてくれたのになんだか問い詰めるような言い方になっちゃって
あ、いえ、いいっすよ。北条が重病で寝たきりになってないことが分かっただけでもほら儲けもんじゃないですか。
I mean, I guess, but it still doesn't explain what the hell's going on besides that. Like OBS being a bitch. That might be true, but it still won't make the clouds over my mind fade away.
あ、前原さん、ほらあれ。
Okamura cried wildly, pointing over my shoulders behind me. Startled, I turned around, and on the other side of the schoolyard near the school gate, I saw a figure trudging forth. Satoko?
北条だ。
What? I burst into a run after faster than I could speak, so that as quickly as possible, I could see with my own eyes that she was okay.
スタートゴー
Satoko seemed taken back by me shouting and running towards her.
まあなんですの圭一さん。突然大声を出して走ってくるから何事かと驚きましたわ。
バカ俺のことなんかどうでもいいだろうそれよりどうしたってんだよ聡子俺心配で心配で
心配性ですわね。
We saw her face before we approached. Something is up. Something is definitely up. And I do not really like it at all.
たかだか3日ですわよ。もう圭一さんは心配性なんですから。
From listening to her, she seemed like the normal Satoko, but I could tell she was clearly acting strangely. Her smile was somehow forlorn, and her complexion was bad for some reason.
北条。大丈夫だったのかよ。風邪とかじゃないのか。
Tomata-kun and Okamura-kun both expressed their concerns.
一体どうしたってんだよ3日も俺がどれだけ心配してたか
ごめん遊ばせですわ。ちょっとお家のお掃除をしたりしてたんですのよ。だいぶ長いこと使ってませんでしたからもう家中ホコリだらけでして。
はあ聡子お前何を言ってんだなんで家の掃除なんかで学校を休まなきゃなんないんだ
Satoko didn't answer me. Instead, she passed by me and headed for the entrance.
もう今はお弁当の時間ではありませんの。私はお腹が空いてますのよ。
It was certainly lunch break. I couldn't force her to stop after she told me she wanted lunch since she was so hungry.
まあいいやリカちゃんは3日間毎日お前の弁当を持ってきてくれてるんだぜ今日はちゃんと食べてやれそうだなとにかく早く教室へ行こうみんなを安心させてやろうぜ
そうですわね。皆さんにご心配をおかけしてしまったかもしれませんわね。あははは人気者は辛いでございますわ。
Satoko, I swear, there's something obviously going on with her, and I am so worried. I'm already acting like a big sibling. I don't want any harm coming to her. I put my hand on Satoko's shoulder, and we ran to the classroom together. Up close, I was able to verify that Satoko looked somewhat weak. All this anxiety was supposed to go away when I saw her again. That's what I thought, at least. But But now, I actually started to have quite a few fears. What the heck happened to Satoko? Everyone in the class, of course, reacted the same exact way I did. We were worried about you. We're so glad to see you well. What were you doing for 3 days? Our classmates showered her with questions.
本当にご迷惑をおかけしましたわね。
As she cackled, she chowed down on the bento Rika-chan had made for her. Those in the teacher's lounge must have been informed of Satoko's arrival because our teacher sprinted into the classroom, her breathing ragged.
北条さん、
あら先生、3日間もご心配をおかけしましたわね。ご覧の通り元気でピンピンしてますわ。
もう本当に心配してたんですからね。お弁当が食べ終わったら職員室に来るんですよ。いろいろとお話があります。
3日もサボったからきっと大目玉に違いありませんわね。
Jesus. Okay, Satoko, I swear. Satsuko laughed sheepishly while she scratched her head, and the rest of the class burst out into laughter. The teacher was acting angry, but she breathed a sigh of relief at seeing Satoko healthy and smiling as she ate her lunch with the class surrounding her.
でも安心したよな、レナ。
あ、ごめん。無事でよかったよね。
Why do you seem somewhat disappointed? At first, you were just... What the hell? I looked at Reina and knew. She had a sense that something about Satoko was off too. Okay, never mind. I looked at Mion, detached from the clamor as well, a somewhat grim expression on her face. But Rika-chan, on the other hand, was smiling from ear to ear. She spread out the bento boxes one by one as Satoko finished them. Finally, Satoko was satisfied after enjoying the thorough conversation with her classmates and remembered that she had been called into the teacher's lounge.
めんどくさいんですけど、行かないともっと怒られてしまいそうですからね。僕も一緒に行きますですよ。
Satoko rises from her seat, and Rika-chan runs over to her.
ごめんあそばせケイチさん。ちょっと怒られてまいりますわ。
おう。なんだったら俺も一緒に付き合うぜ。例のカレーの悪口の時、一緒に職員室で怒られた仲じゃねえか。
それには及ばないのです。ケイチはここでお留守番なのですよ。
Rika-chan's words were gentle, but the firm rejection was clear in her eyes. The two of them exited into the hallway, walking shoulder to shoulder. After seeing them off, the class breathed in a collective relief sigh, broke apart, and went back to their usual lunch break banter. We, however, couldn't go back to how we usually were. Okay, everyone's serious. Not I, not Mion, and of course, not Reina. They stared at the classroom exit Satoko and Rika-chan had left through, their expressions a little distant and
俺
grim.
たちは仲間だ。そうだろう、みんな。
I blurted out something strange, so Mion and Reina turned around with dubious expressions.
俺は仲間に隠し事はしない。だからさっき聞いたばかりのことを言う。
I told them the stories I heard from Tomota-kun and Okamura-kun earlier about the tofu shop and how Satoko's uncle apparently came back. All at once without letting them speak.
これが俺の知るすべてだ。だからミオンもレナもしていることがあるなら話してくれ。俺は俺の知るすべてを話したぞ。
I ended my sentence firmly and looked at Mion and Reina's eyes in turn. Reina stared right back at me. Her eyes didn't falter. Sorry. Wait, do I have a dog in my room? Oh. Dixie! 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 I would love to turn on like my webcam thing temporarily just to show Dixie, but I mean I've already showed my face before on Twitch like months ago, but who cares? It's whatever. Without even opening her mouth, I could tell that she wasn't hiding anything. Then our gazes turned to Mion.
別に私は隠して黙ってるわけじゃないよ。
Mion couldn't seem to endure our silent stares and began to talk timidly, as if she was guilty of something.
でもケイちゃんが話したなら私も話さないわけにはいかないよね。
Let's hear it, Mion.
みーちゃん、何か知ってるの？
いや、聡子のおじが帰ってきたっての。この間の日曜日にふらっとひなみ沢に帰ってきたって。
どうしてそれを黙ってた？
ごめん。
My anger shot caused me on the flageolet. Looked down and hang her head uncomfortably.
ケイチくん、怒るようなことじゃないよ。
My dog went out. Fuck it out. She's a crackhead. Crackhead she is. Hey, I let you out. You are bipolar or something. Crazy ass dog, I swear. Oh shit. Why does my model die when I'm not even remotely close to my camera to make it do that? Like, I go away from my camera, my character's just staring straight forward, right? But then I'm not even like facing the camera, and then she just like, ah!
みーちゃん怖がってる。
あ、ごめん。つい大声を。
I lowered my head in apology. Mion accepted it, collected herself, and continued. According to her, her uncle's relationship with his lover, whom he had been with in Okonomiya, had collapsed. Without anywhere to go, he went back home to Hinamizawa. And that Sunday, the day of the barbecue, her uncle ran into Satsuko and brought her back to the house.
自宅になんで連れ戻すんだよ。
ろくでなしの怠け者だからね。自分一人じゃ炊事はおろか掃除一つできないし。
そんな炊事やお掃除のために聡子ちゃんを連れ戻したっていうの？
That is fucked. Satsuko's still a child. I remember that she said she had been cleaning house when I met her back at the school gate. A moment later, the pieces fell into place, into the jigsaw puzzle of unease. And as for what the puzzle depicted, when I saw it from afar, I could see the answer clearly.
聡子が家に閉じ込められていじめられながら家事をやらされてるっていう噂なんだよ。
If you knew that, why didn't you speak up? I nearly yelled that at Mion, but I hastily stopped myself.
みーちゃん、それ本当なの？
私がこの目で確かめたわけじゃないから本当かどうかは知らないけど。
Mion looked down again, and staring at the floor, grew silent.
去年みたいに
Or grew quiet. Silent, quiet, same thing, entirely.
意地悪なおじさん夫婦のところで暮らしてた時みたいに。
でもさ、そのおじさんって家事はからっきしなんだろ。聡子が重宝なわけだから何もひどい扱いをしているってわけじゃないかもしれないだろ。
圭一くん、何を根拠に言ってるのか知らないけど、
Wait.
いい加減なことは言わない方がいいよ。
Reina clearly and directly got mad at me. You don't know much about this, so don't talk as you do. Yes, that's clearly what she meant.
じゃあレナは知ってるのかよ。
私だって知らないよ。今ここで聞くまで聡子ちゃんがおじさんの家に連れ戻されたなんて知らなかったもの。でもね、1年前とはまるで状況が違うの。
状況が違うってどういうことだよ。
サトシくんがいない。
サトシは すごく妹思いのいい兄だったんだよ。いつも聡子をかばってた。意地悪なおじおばのとばっちりが少しでも聡子にかぶらないように盾になって。
家には意地悪なおじさんとさとこちゃんが二人きりなんだよ。それがどれだけ行き詰まるものか圭一君にだって想像がつくんじゃないかな。ひなみ沢に帰ってきた理由だって一緒に暮らしてた相手が失踪して生活できなくなったからでしょ。そんな不愉快な理由で帰ってきた人がどうしてさとこちゃんに優しくできるっていうの？
She was right. It wasn't easy for me to imagine Satoko not being tormented.
ごめん。
こっちこそごめん。問い詰めるような口調になっちゃったね。
An awkward atmosphere floated among us. The three of us remained silent and just stared at the floor. Finally, we heard the principal's bell ringing. The teacher came back with Satoko and Rika-chan at her side.
さあさあ、午後の授業を始めますよ。委員長、号令。起立。
ごめんなさいね。失礼。
Whoa! I couldn't read anything from Satoko's vaguely sheepish expression, but given the clouded look on Rika-chan was wearing behind her, it was tough to last off the disquieting story I've heard from Mion. Yeah, what the hell was up with Rika's expression there? I don't know if I've ever seen her like that before.
よーし、久々に全メンバーが揃ったからね。久しぶりにパーッと大部活で盛り上がろうじゃないの。
Yeah, perfect! Indeed, in times like these, the best thing to do is to obviously get rowdy and scheme against one another in a club activity.
望むところだよ。ねえさとこちゃん、やろうやろう。
さとこが好きだったゲームあるでしょ。ほら、なんだったっけ。なんでも構わないよ。言ってみ。言ってみ。
Mion laughed happily, took a bunch of games out of the club locker and lined them up on the desks. I think this was the first time that Mion had ever let someone else decide on the game for her. I could tell that she was especially being considerate to Satoko, thinking that whatever the circumstances are, if she could enjoy our time together as a group, then it might be some comfort, some diversion. Satoko seemed to understand her feelings too and smiled vaguely, though pleased, but her head slowly moved from side to side.
ありがたいですけど、お気持ちだけで結構ですわ。いろいろしなければならないことがありますので。
I want to go back to the club activities! I really want to go back to the club activities! Why you gotta do this? I don't want you to go back to him. Even Rika-chan hung her head in remorse.
おいおいおいおいおい、本気なわけ？部活メンバーが久しぶりに揃ったってのにお流れになっちゃうわけ？敵前逃亡は罰ゲームってのは快速第何条だったっけ？
やめなよみーちゃん。無理に付き合わせちゃダメだよ。
別におじさんは無理強いしてるわけじゃないよ。ただ大盛り上がりした方が絶対に楽しいと思って。
本当にお気持ちだけで嬉しいんですのよ。ご安心なさいませ。次に戦うときは皆さんまとめてでっかい罠にはめてご覧に入れますわ。
Her laugh just doesn't feel the same anymore. Satoko, while insulting us, still said she couldn't participate in club today and apologized. Quickly put her things into her bag and pattered out into the hallway, disappearing. It all happened in a blink of an eye.
さとこ。
Rika-chan stared lonesomely at her friend as her friend hurried home, unable to be part of club activities. Silence filled the classroom. Both the cheerful voices of our classmates in the schoolyard and the voices of the cicadas sounded like they were coming from some faraway world.
つまんないの？
The silence was broken by Mion's bitterness. and she began putting the games back into the locker. Everyone just stared absently at Satoko's seat, now empty.
リカちゃん、そろそろ話してくれてもいいんじゃないかな。
She looks very serious. Reina made a gentle smile as she possibly could and spoke softly to Rika-chan. Even without hearing it from her, we pretty much knew the situation at this point. Satoko's uncle had broken up with his lover and came back home to Hinamizawa. And he had taken Satoko back home and forced her to do all the household work. And that obviously had to have been pretty rough on her. Thinking that this was common knowledge to everyone, I skipped to the important part.
どうなんだ？
Maybe Mion and Reina wanted to ask the same question. Nobody spoke. We just stared, waiting for Rika-chan's reply. Rika-chan still didn't answer us. We were hoping for her to say no, but her silence was enough of a bad sign.
去年だっけ？おじ夫婦の元にいた時もこんな状況だったんだろ
うん。あの時は夫婦喧嘩のとばっちりみたいなのがほとんどだったからさ。こうして部活で時間を潰して家にいる時間を極力減らすのも一つの手だったんだけど、今は家事を強制されてるから学校に残ることもできないんだね。
Shit. Satoko's not a slave. Who do you think you are? Ignoring your own inability to live properly and basically putting Satoko under house arrest.
常識的に考えてこんなのおかしいんじゃねえのか？いろいろと状況証拠は必要だろうけど、こういうのって問題だろ？警察とかに通報できないのかよ？
そうだよね。証拠とかがあれば警察に通報できると思うよ。あるいはそういうのって沖宮の相談所の人とかに相談できないの？
Reina, I kept saying police, police, as if it was nothing, but Mion's response sounded like she had thought that we were a little naive.
みんな簡単に言ってくれるけどさ、それを立証するリスクを考えたことある？
リスクってなんだよ？
一昨年の冬かな。通報したんだよ。沖宮の相談所に。問題があるからすぐに何とかしてくれって。
そうだったんだ。それで？
電話してすぐに職員の人が来てくれたよ。で、聡子とか聡とかに事情聴取してた。ついでにおじ夫婦のところにもね。
聡子と聡に聞くまではいいが、おじ夫婦にまで聞くのはまずいんじゃないのか？
両者の意見を聞いて総合的に判断するんだとさ。ご立派ご立派。
で、結果はどうだったの？
様子見。
様子見ってなんだよそれ。
Fucking hell.
おじさん、とっても勉強になっちゃったんだけどさ。法律ではね、暴行か育児放棄が認められなきゃ虐待とは言わないんだってさ。聡子も聡もよく小づかれてたらしいけど、別に傷跡が残るようなレベルじゃなかったし、3食の飯も一応食えてたし、寝床もあったし、心理的外傷を与える言動だって別にカセットテープで証拠があったわけじゃないし、実際村の人たちだって実際に乱暴してる現場は見たことないからね。いくら意地悪だからって人前で乱暴はしないでしょ、誰だって。
で、その後どうなったの？
しばらくは毎週決まった日に担当の職員さんが訪問してたみたい。おじ夫婦も自分たちが見張られてることを気にして目立つ行動はしなくなったらしいけど、それで済むわけないでしょ普通。
より陰湿ないじめ方に加速していったってことだね。
The fuck? Mion sighed and nodded.
おばのやつが特にねちっこくってさ、女特有の陰湿さっていうのかな。相当いやらしいことをしてたらしいよ。聡子、最後の方は呼吸するだけのボロ人形みたいだった。
So what? From that conclusion, does that mean that they never should have contacted child welfare in the first place?
わかった？ 誰の目にも明らかな虐待の証拠がなかったらお手上げなんだよ。むしろ状況を悪化させかねない。あれは失敗だった。
After hearing that even public organizations, the one thing they thought was dependable, couldn't do anything, everyone hung their heads.
つまり誰の目にも明らかな虐待の証拠が見つかるまで通報すべきでないってことなんだね。
うん、まあそういうこと。
I considered Satsuko's current situation. She was brought back to her house. It was a little difficult to call that abuse. She was being tormented and forced to do chores. How she was being tormented would be the key, but without concrete evidence, that would be difficult to prove. If she had some kind of external injury, then that would work. But as far as we could tell from today, she had nothing of the sort. And being forced to do chores, that was a bit weak too. There had to be better evidence that she was without a doubt being abused. I know. Her uncle had ignored Satsuko's existence for a whole year and went to live in town with his lover. Didn't that fall under one of the definitions of abuse that Mion had mentioned? Child neglect?
うん、それは立派な育児放棄だね。どうなのみーちゃん。
おじが今もいなければ育児放棄は認定されそうだけど、今この瞬間は同居してるわけでしょ。今までは別居だったけど、心を入れ替えて同居することにしたなんて言われたら、また様子見なんてことになりかねないよ。
Once we reported it, we would need to be absolutely sure they'd intercept it as abuse. Maybe we needed far more concrete evidence, lest we repeat last year's mistake.
なんだか悲しい。ということはつまり、しばらくは黙って見てろってことなんだよね。
The only plan I could think of was, in the end, just watching and waiting. It left me in shock when I realized that it would be the same policy as if the officials who had made the situation worse. As Mion said, reporting it to the public agency would be a gamble. If we were going to pick a fight, then it would have to be one we couldn't afford to lose. If we were gambling without enough money, even without enough evidence, our defeat would be assured. If we took our time, best enough money, then that would be sure of victory. Then that would mean pretending we didn't see Satsuko's plight for a considerable amount of time.
こんなところで話を振ってごめんな。リカちゃんはどうして一人暮らしができるんだ？
Okay, Rika's been silent through the entirety of this shit, and honestly, I'm not too sure how to feel. Like, she obviously knows something. I think that could be made pretty clear. She knows something. I might have to get another fucking water bottle later. Jesus Christ. My hell has been realized. Rika-chan had lost her parents, if I recall correctly. From what I'd heard, she had no relatives either. She was forced to live on her own as a result, but her life was free of restriction. If she could somehow grant that freedom to Satsuko too.
ほら、リカちゃんって両親いないのに生活してるだろ。保護者のいない子供って施設みたいなところに入れられちゃうんじゃないっけ？
圭一君、それひどい。
悪口で言ってるんじゃねえよ。そこに聡子を救うヒントがあるかもしれないと思って聞いてみただけなんだ。リカちゃん、気分を害したならごめんな。
Rika-chan shook her head, not particularly disturbed.
それはですね、実は村長さんちの子供になっているからなのです。
補足がいるね。村長の君吉のおじいちゃんがリカちゃんの保護者なんだよ。
Alright, Kimiyoshi.
ちゃんと県知事の許可を得た正式な。
へえ、養子みたいなものか？
養子とは違う。別に籍を入れなくても保護者にはなれるんだよ。
分かってきた。つまりリカちゃんは普通に暮らしてるけど、法律の上では村長さんの家に住んでることになってるんだね。
まあそんなとこ。そのおかげでリカちゃんは保護者から離れての生活を認められているってわけ。聡子はそこに居候してるってことになるけどね。
難しいことはよくわかりませんが、つまりはそういうことなのです。
ミオ、今興味深いことを言ったな。席が違っても保護者になれるみたいなことを言ったよな。じゃあ形だけでも村長さんとかが聡子の保護者になってくれればいいんじゃないのか？
Then, she'd be in the same position as Rika-chan. She could go back to her old life.
ところがそうはいかないの。だっておじだって保護者のつもりなんだもん。
ちょっと待て、わけがわからなくなったぞ。そもそも保護者ってなんだ？
In legal terms, a guardian and a parent weren't necessarily synonyms. So whoever is actually looking after her at home would be considered her guardian.
ならおじは保護者じゃないな。ずっと聡子をほったらかしにしてた。
でも保護者だと主張されたらそれまでだよ。聡子が連れ戻されてから数日、その間の食事代はおじの財布から出てるよね。一応面倒を見てると主張できなくもない。それに1年間聡子をほったらかしたとはいえ、最初の1年間は生活の面倒を見た実績がある。でも村長にはその実績はない。
意地悪なおじさんと村長さんが同時に保護者を主張したら、おじさんの方が強いってこと？
その可能性が高いってこと。それに保護者ってのは実際に面倒を見てる人を指すんだよ。実際に寝床や食事を握ってるおじと名義だけ貸そうとしてる村長じゃどうにもならない。
じゃあ村長が実際に生活の面倒を見ればいいじゃないか。そうすれば名実ともに村長が保護者になれるんだろう。
We just need to shelter Satoko. It might lead to her uncle being desperate to take her back, but we'll stubbornly refuse him.
そんな簡単にはいかないよ。聡子は育ち盛りの女の子なんだよ。人間一人の面倒を見てくださいなんて猫の子預けるのとはわけが違う。
じゃあ監督はどうだよ。監督ってよくは知らないけど裕福なんだろ。自分で言ってたくらいなんだし、本当の親でなくても保護者になれるなら監督でも可能なんだ。監督なら聡子の面倒を立派に見てくれる気がする。
だから聡子をペットみたいに考えないでって。ケイちゃんはさっきから聡子を誰かに押し付ける話ばっかり。人間一人の生活の面倒を見る責任ってものをもっと慎重に考えて。監督に聞いたの？聡子を引き取って面倒を見るってちゃんと確約を得たわけ？
そんなの得てないよ。でも監督なら絶対に OK するだろ
う。まあいいよ。100歩譲って監督が OK したとするよ。でもダメなんだよ。保護者は独身じゃダメなんだよ。
Ugh. That's right. Coach, didn't he even say it himself? He was alone, so he couldn't do it. Shit, what the hell? Why is being single such a disadvantage in this society? I don't know, I consider it an advantage, but I mean, it also depends on your views on it. I don't know. Then all you could do is marry into a wealthy family, right?
ひなみ沢にそんなお金持ちはいるのかな。難しそう
ね。簡単じゃないんだよ。人間一人引き取るってのは。誰かに押し付けようなんて短絡的な考えがそもそもダメなの。考えが浅いんだよ、ケイちゃんは。
なんなんだよ、チクショー。俺は必死に聡子を救おうと考えてるのに、ダメだってそればっかり。お前ら 本当は貞子のことなんかどうでもいいんだろ。仲間のこと本気で心配してないんだろ。どうなんだよ。
そんなつもりないよ。でもそう簡単にはいかないっていうか。
そんな難しい話じゃねえだろ。裕福な奴が貞子をしばらく面倒見てくれればいい、それだけのことだぞ。そうだ、ミオンチはどうだよ。お前御三家とかいう立派な家柄なんだって自慢してたよな。話じゃものすごいでかい家に住んでるそうじゃないか。
Okay, I understand that Kei is like, of course, wanting to protect Satoko, but he's kind of going over a line. He needs to control himself here.
うち無理、そんなのバチャが許してくれるはずない。
じゃあ沖宮に住んでる親はどうだよ。聞いた話じゃこっちもかなりの豪邸に住んでるらしいじゃないか。町には親類の経営する店がたくさんあるそうだし、立派な資産家じゃないかよ。おい、
ダメ。沖宮の家なんてもっとダメ。うちのお父さんそんなの絶対に許さない。
おい、普段は散々大物ぶりを自慢しといて、ここ一番で及び腰かよ。なんなんだよお前、貞子を見殺しにする気かよ。
そんなつもりはないけど。そりゃ私だって聡子は助けてやりたいよ。でもそれとこれじゃ話が違うってのか。
冷てえやつ。
Oh my.
仲間の危機だろ。ここで救わなかったら何なんだよ。部長だろ、部活の。救えよ仲間の危機をよ。今ここで救わなかったら仲間じゃねえ、人じゃねえ。お前の人間性が問われてるんだよ。聞いてるのかよミオン。
My emotions all exploded out of me. I couldn't even give her a chance to say anything in response. I just wanted to make Mion agree with me, even if I had to force her. If she did, Satoko's problems would be solved. If pushing her would solve the issue, then I'd push her as much as I needed to.
何さっきから黙り込んでんだよ。聞いてるのかこの野郎。どうなんだよ。なんとか言ってるよ園崎ミオン。
みー、
Mion, looking down with a grim face, began sobbing. Her hands were clenching trembling fists as she rubbed her eyes to wipe away the tears. Was what I said really that mean? This wasn't a time to cry. We were in the gambling room now. We have to do something for Satoko. And as I thought, Reina spoke, her voice cold and incredibly calm.
ケイチくん、みーちゃんちがダメなら他の裕福な家を探したら。私、ひなみ沢に立派な豪邸建てて住んでる人。
誰だよ。
白々しいよ。あれだけ立派な家に住んでて、自分の家だけは蚊帳の外。
俺んちかよ。俺の家は。
仲間なんでしょ。救ってよケイチくんが。みーちゃんはダメだってさ、冷たいから。
Oh.
じゃあ仲間思いのケイチくんがお手本示さなきゃダメだね。あれだけ大きなお家に家族3人で住んでるんだっけ。じゃあ空き部屋なんかいくらでもあるよね。余ってるお部屋いくつかさとこちゃんに分けてあげればいいじゃない。それでめでたくさとこちゃんの悩みは解決。あら何これでもう終わり。あっけない話だったね。はい解決、お疲れ様。じゃあもう今日はいい？私帰るね。ランランラン。
Okay.
今日は久しぶりに宝探しにでも行こうかな。昨日まではずっとさとこちゃんのことが心配で全然遊ぶ気になんかならなかったし、今日はどんな宝物が見つかるかな。はう
God, she was talking fast.
なんか言ってよ。私だけ喋りずくめ。黙ってんじゃないわよ。聞いてんの前原圭一。
Okay. Even the cicadas seemed to cower in fear. Reina sent her shoulders bobbing up and down to me, who had forgotten to breathe. Mion, whose face had gone completely pale, and Rika-chan, who was keeping silent, as if nothing had happened. The atmosphere of the classroom grew tight and stiff, and it petrified us where we stood. The sound of the chair Reina had sat down after having stood up finally allowed everyone present to take a breath. Reina had shown me how much I'd hurt Mion.
レナが怖いのです。
After a few moments, Rika-chan cut into the frozen air.
ごめんねリカちゃん。みーちゃんもごめん。ケイチくんには謝らなくてもいいよね。
Okay!
ああ、ごめん。めちゃくちゃなこと言って悪かった。
さっきのあれ、私に言ってたの？みーちゃん睨みながら言ってたから、私てっきりみーちゃんに言ってるもんだとばかり思ってた。
Reina had such strength that you wouldn't have imagined it normally. All I did was spout terrible things as a wave of violent fury pressed over me. I couldn't contend with her.
ミオン、ごめん。頭に血が上ってた。
Come to think of it, I didn't understand what had gotten me riled up. I thought of myself as Satoko's Nini. That I think about a little harder than everyone else, and yet...
いいよ。私こそケイちゃんが一生懸命悩んでるのに、あれはダメこれはダメばっかり言って。ごめんね。私も悪かった。
Mion rubbed away the tears in the corner of her eyes with a fist, apologized as well. We bowed our heads to each other and looked down without glancing at each other. Someone, I didn't know who, heaved a sigh. Satoko being tormented had been known about since last year. How had the tragedy back then saved Satoko? How had they brought it to an end? Right. In the end, nobody could do anything. All they could do was bear it patiently and wait for those agonizing days to end. That's right. The one who brought an end to those terrible days was some crazy drug addict no one knew. On the night of the Watanagashi last year, their mean aunt had been beaten to death. But it hadn't been done to save Satoshi nor Satoko. Right. It really was just a coincidence. Satoko's friends, who had needed something to do something for her most of all, could do nothing. The incident may have been a tragic one, but from Satoko's viewpoint, it was nothing less than a miracle. Yes, a miracle. A miracle one could only wait for.
待つしかないのかよ。俺たちには。
Not for evidence of abuse, not for something that minor.
何をかな。
奇跡。
No one made fun of me for using such a crazy word. We couldn't come up with any solutions, so it was the only thing we could do.
無力なんだよ。私たちは。
The one word Mion dropped was the finishing blow. It was hot. My body was sticky with sweat. The worst month, June. Damn, that hit so fucking different. This chapter so far is kicking my fucking ass. Why you gotta do this to me, Higurashi? Why? Why me? What did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this? I'm upset. Jesus, I can't. Higurashi does shit. I walked forward quite a ways, and then turned right where the rice fields ended. I had never come here before, so I had no idea where to go. I got lost several times. I may have taken quite a long way around. Maybe I should have gone back home and gotten on my bike first. It would have made everyone else worry if I asked them. So I asked one of our other classmates where Satsuko's actual house was. The house was originally her family's, apparently not their uncles and his wives. Their house had been bigger, so they had taken it for themselves. Right here, several houses all in a line. Over there? I was visiting Satsuko's house, but didn't particularly intend to meet her here. I didn't want to spy on the enemy, her uncle, I mean. Or her mean uncle, whatever. Maybe I just wanted to be a little closer to her, as her Nini. Pretty words, I didn't know if they were even true. What if Tomata and the others told me was right? If what they told me was right, it'd be this house? When I recognized it, my feet grew heavy. What did I come here for? My motive for coming here was absurd. When Mion had said at the end that we were powerless, it made me sort of feel frustrated. I just wanted to do something, anything other than waste my days praying for a miracle. That's what made me come here. But that was all. Even if I were here to witness her uncle actually tormenting Satsuko, what would I do? Would I act like a comic book hero and punch the guy in the face and take Satsuko away with me? And then live together somewhere far away? That was ridiculous.
俺は無力だ。
The cicadas' voices raised in a chorus sounded like they were scoffing at me. As though they were saying that if I couldn't do anything and wouldn't do anything, then I should just go back home. I heard a car approaching, so I got out of the way. But the car stopped right behind me, a horn honking shortly once. Annoyed. Hadn't I gotten out of their way? I looked behind me, and a familiar face was looking at me. No!
監督。
Oh, never mind.
こんにちは、前原さん。こんなところでお会いするとは本当に奇遇です。お家は近くなんですか?
Me being here wasn't normal. Just as I considered somehow giving him the slip, I noticed Satsuko sitting in the passenger seat.
さとこ
Satsuko got out of the car and began unloading a lot of groceries from the truck.
買い物の帰りに偶然監督にお会いしたんですのよ。送ってくださるというのでお言葉に甘えたのですわ。
自転車でこんなに買い物をしたら運びきれませんからね。
As Coach spoke, he pulled Satsuko's bike from the back seat where they had put it. The grocery bags were big, and there were 4 of them. They all seemed to be packed full and very
こ
heavy.
の袋セブンスマート？おいおい、自転車で行くにはちょっと遠すぎないか？
I looked at the bags and saw that they were filled to the brim with sake bottles and snacks that you'd eat with sake, and boxes of cigarettes. Their weight was one thing, but their contents were nothing less than luxury items.
監督のおかげで助かりましたわ。ちょっと坂道は辛かったですから。
Satsuko gave Coach a smile filled with gratitude, but it was incredibly awkward and even heart-treading.
さとこ、この買い物今晩の晩飯ってわけじゃないだろう。
当然ですわ。私お酒なんか飲めませんし、おつまみも嫌いですし、タバコなんか吸うわけ。
He made Satsuko go to a distant store by herself on her bike. So she could buy dumb shit like this? What was her uncle doing right now anyway? He must have been working up a good sweat at the very moment if he needed to send Satsuko out by herself, right? If not, then how much had Satsuko suffered for no reason? I hadn't intended to voice my feelings, but they might have made it onto my face. Coach might have noticed because he clapped me on the shoulder. Just then, one of the house windows clattered open, and a face of a vulgar man with a very sight which made me immediately avert my eyes emerged from within it. There were no self-introductions necessary. My gut told me that this was the uncle in question. The first thing out of his mouth should have been the words of gratitude for Satsuki.
さとこ、缶のガスかけっぱなしで出よったんな、この。
ごめんなさい。でもすぐに買いに行けって言ったから。
やかましいわ。せっかくの銀条台無しにしよってん。
Oh, my rage. I'm getting Satoshi's bat.
どうしよったんじゃ。
ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい。
Satsuko miserably apologized over and over, bawling again and again. She could be perfectly described as a small animal. I had no idea what was happening. Satsuko finished shopping with all the heavy stuff that wasn't even for dinner. She only managed to come back because she ran into Coach and he drove her home. If she hadn't been found by him, she'd surely still be by herself, panting and moaning, pedaling her bicycle up the steep hill. What was with those words? These horrible, sleazy words that he said to Satsuko? In what country's dictionary did it tell him to say such things to a young girl who had just finished shopping? My anger, of course, wouldn't reach him. The uncle displayed no interest in me, instead shouting at Coach.
おや、入江の先生じゃないですか。こんにちは。そしたら先生も上がっていきますか。もうオーラスですからすぐ入れますよ。ピンのワンツー、何でもありで。
いえ、遠慮します。さとこちゃんとは偶然お会いしたんで、ちょっとお送りしてあげただけです。すぐに失礼します。
そんな、ちょっとぐらいやっててくださいな。先生お金持ちじゃないですか。
I didn't even understand what her uncle and Coach were even talking about. But I knew one thing for sure, is that none of what he had said had been to thank Satsuko in any way.
さとこ、とっととカキも持ってこんかい。ビールも冷めてもうた。冷蔵庫から冷えてるの出しちょくれな。
てっちゃん、娘に厳しすぎや。もうちょいいたわらんとかいそうやで。
あんな娘にゃ、この兄貴んちにいた頃からそうだよ。甘やかすと親の言うことをなんも聞かんやっちゃよ。
それよか、てっちゃんの妻だぜよ。
椿さんリーチしよったで。
おお、悪い悪い。なんだ。椿、あんたまたリーチかいな。
It looked like it wasn't just her uncle, but some of his friends were also over. Yeah, and they were titled as thugs. Hey, wait. What was he? No, what were they doing? Flinking rude words left and right, making Satsuko go shopping out for your beer. And what were they doing?
町からおじさまのお友達が来てて宴会やってますの。お友達のお夕食もご用意するように言われてますのよ。
なんだよそれ。
Mahjong? He called his friends over for Mahjong. And they were too busy playing, so they sent Satsuko to buy them a crap load of booze from a faraway store. And the first thing he said to her was how she left the gas on. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?
何やってんだよあいつ。麻雀ってそんなのに遊びほうけてさとこにこんなの買いに行かせるのかよ。
Even though Coach was listening, he pretended he wasn't. There was a line of heavy-looking shopping bags lined up in the ground next to the truck.
さあ、前原さんも手伝ってあげてください。ほら、男の子なんですから、こっちの重い袋を持ちましょう。
監督、こんなのまかり通っていいんですか。こんなの絶対に。
Coach pretended he hadn't heard that violent outburst either. When I thought about it later, his reaction might have been the best thing he could do in this situation.
私も2つ持ちますから。ほら、前原さんも持つのを手伝ってあげてください。
The bags were packed to the brim with bottles of sake and bar snacks. They were so heavy and so filthy, so unfair. They weren't just heavy in terms of weight. They made me feel mortified. Nothing could have been heavier than that.
ケイチさん、大丈夫ですのよ。自分で持ちますわ。
Satsuko mistook my biting back at the humiliation of grimacing under the weight and offered to help.
バカ、俺を舐めるな。
Satsuko never looks down on my physical strength in the slightest.
監督もすみませんわね。重いでしょ？
No, not at all, he answered. Coolly, but I, and I alone knew, Coach was an adult, and he mustn't... He just knew how to keep his feelings from showing. There was even more anger than I was feeling, burning deep in his eyes.
いや重いですね。
Shit! Shit! It wasn't very far to the doorstep of Satsuko's house, but these bags squeezed my palms and started leaving red marks. Fury welled in me, and the back of my throat stung. But even if it all came gushing out, I wouldn't solve anything, so just tightly gritting my teeth was all I could do.
本当にありがとうございますですわ。監督もケイチさんも。おかげで本当に助かりましたでございます。
After we carried them to the back door, Satsuko said that was enough. Occasionally we'd hear repulsive laughing of her uncle and her friends from within, and my insides would seethe. I knew they weren't ridiculing us. And that is why it made me so mad. They made Satsuko shop for all this heavy and selfish stuff and then ignored her and laughed amongst themselves as they pleased. It was deeply aggravating. Of course, Coach hadn't felt the same way. But if he accidentally let his feelings slip into his face, he'd only cause Satsuko more worry. He knew all that, and spoke coolly, as if he didn't care.
いいえ、ささやかでもお力になれたなら幸いです。お手伝いできそうなことがあったらいつでも言ってくださいね。
I'm pissed. Oh, I'm so pissed. You have any idea how much I want to clock the uncle in the fucking face? Man, I want to just clock this uncle in the fucking face.
お気持ちだけでも本当に嬉しいですわ。
He feels that he feels that way. Those words were sad. Satsuko herself was sad and resigned. That we could only help her so much. But she was right. No matter how much Coach nor I want to help Satsuko, this was as much as we could do. I felt absolutely ashamed of not having the power to help her any more than this. Burning, boiling emotions were bubbling up from within me and rising into my throat. Trembling all over, I almost started to cry from my fury.
俺も力になれることがあったらいつでも力を貸すから、その頑張れよな。
I wanted to at least give her those trite words saying that I'd help her whenever she wanted.
ありがとうございますわ。わざわざこうしてここまで来てくださっただけでも嬉しかったですわ。
Satsuko seemed to have guessed what I was doing in a place like this, when my house was in the opposite direction from the school.
さあ、もう行った方がよろしいですわ。今は酔っ払ってますから、どんな難癖をつけられるかわかりませんわよ。
She felt guilty getting us involved after we helped her, because she wanted to be the only one to suffer this misfortune. That's how it looked, and it hurt. I handed my supermarket bag over to Satsuko, and then I noticed the back of Satsuko's hand. There was something that looked like a bruise.
おい、サトコ、 お前まだ熱が。
I knew as much as anyone else how transparent that sounded. I didn't need to hear it from Satoko to know how this bruise came to be.
今年の夏風邪はなかなかしつこいようですわね。気になさらないでくださいませ。
嘘だろ。
Coach nudged me in the back. And then he put his index finger on his mouth and chided me for being loud.
本当にありがとうございましたですわ。では明日学校でお会いできるといいですわね。
そんな話してないだろ。その手のあざはどうしたって聞いてるんだよ。
The evening glow finally got to a point where I could see the other concealed oval-shaped bruises and traces of swelling on her neck and her legs and other places too.
階段から落ちたんですのよ。
At this very moment, my violent rampaging emotions were about to burst their way out of my throat. I could find my mouth being tightly clamped down. Coach was pressing down on my mouth from behind, wrapping me around tightly with his hands. Because of that, I couldn't say anything. I could only groan, which I did. That was all I could do. I needed to expel all the magma sitting deep within me, because otherwise I'd surely explode into a million pieces at the very moment. So I groaned and I groaned, from my mouth, from my whole body, while heat fell from drops from my eyes. I groaned and groaned to the point of exhaustion. I wrung absolutely everything out of myself. Even having lost my voice, I was still wrangling it all out.
気持ちはわかります。わかりますから前原さん。今だけこらえてください。お願いですから。前原さん。
Endure it for now? And then what, huh? What would happen to her? To Satoko? Her body and mind was wounded, and she was being made to suffer like this. Can you not even let me howl in vain at that? Is that it, Coach? Are we this powerless? So powerless that we can't even fucking scream from the bottom of our hearts? The voices of the Higurashi made me calm down. I didn't know how long it had been. Satoko abruptly gave a slight bow.
ありがとうございますですわ、ケイチさん。
サトコ。
今、ケイチさんが本当のニーニーみたいに見えました。私の本当のニーニーは、私にはケイチさんというニーニーがいてくれる。
そうだ。俺がお前のニーニーだ。お前が辛い時絶対に助けてやるから。ニーニーがサトコをきっと助けてやるからな。
Satoshi Hojo, you fucking idiot. If not now, then when? Satoko, she's never been more in pain in their life. If her Nini doesn't save her now, then when will he? Why did you run away? Why did you abandon her? Why did you leave Satoko behind? You don't have the right to call yourself Satoko's Nini.
俺は逃げないからな。
え？
絶対に逃げない。サトシみたいにお前を見捨てて逃げたりしない。絶対に俺はお前を見捨てない。
Tears sprinkled down from Satsuko's eyes, and then she narrowed her eyes into a smile.
さよなら、ニーニー。
Satsuko took her right hand and awkwardly waved to me.
大丈夫ですわ。今のニーニーので、私、いっぱい力をもらいましたから。大丈夫。明日まで頑張れますから。大丈夫。だから、ね、今日はさよならでございますわよ。
There's no way that I could say bye, see you tomorrow. And then, from the inside of the house, came a thoroughly disgusting voice.
さとこ、はよ乾きも持ってこんかい。
さあ、ニーニー、早く行ってくださいませ。もう、私は大丈夫ですから。早く。
行きましょう、前原さん。これ以上はかえって聡子ちゃんに迷惑をかけます。
監督、ニーニーのお家はちょっと遠いんですの。申し訳ございませんが、送ってあげていただけます？
ええ、わかりました。
Coach grabbed me by the collar, and with a strength I couldn't imagine him having, started dragging me away, and I, unable to oppose him, started getting farther away from Satoko. She waved her hand at us, expression still dark, and disappeared through the back door. Coach got into the car first, and turned on around the narrow path by the passenger side door around me.
前原さんの気持ちは痛いくらいにわかります。いえ、前原さん以上にわかるつもりです。でも今この場だけはこらえてください。あなたの心は確かに伝わりましたから。だからこらえてください。でないと。
もう分かってます。すみません。さっきはありがとうございました。
I meekly got into the passenger seat. The car accelerated quietly, and Satsuko's house grew further and further away from the rear view mirror. We made a wide turn, and then I couldn't see her house anymore.
え？あなたのお家そんな遠くなんですか？学校の反対側じゃないですか。
I didn't bother to reply. I would have been hard pressed to give him an answer, and that's why, as to why I was at Satsuko's house. Coach didn't say anything more either. For a while, it was just the two of us. The two of us were silent. Only sounds of gravel sprang over the road as we drove. I remembered how Reina said things were different than last year. At the time, she had Satoshi with her. Satoshi protected Satsuko. And that was less of the sparks that fell onto her.
でも今はサトシはいない。
はい、残酷ですがそれが事実です。
Coach seemed to understand what I really meant when I said that.
悲しくあまりに残酷な話ですが、私たちの決意や努力、尽力には限界があります。
It sounded like an excuse, but he was right. Even if Coach and I wanted to be the people Satsuko could depend on, that was all. It ended at the front door. No matter how much I shouted that I would be her Nini, no matter how much I shouted that I wouldn't abandon her, no matter how much Satsuko called me need me, I couldn't do any more than that.
サトシは一体どこに行っちまったんですか？
Right. Satoshi was another story. Her actual brother Satoshi was in the position to protect her far, far better than we ever could. That was the cold, sad truth of the massive gulf between Satoshi and us.
今頃どこでどうしているんでしょう。
Satoshi left home. I didn't know why. Maybe it was because of Oishiro-sama's curse, or he disappeared or something. In any case, he wasn't beside Satoko now. At the time Satoko needed him to protect her most, he wasn't there.
どうして今ここにいないんですか？一番守ってやらなければならないこの時に。
お社様のたたりがどうとかいろいろ家出したとしか言えません。
ある日を境に帰ってこないって仲間が言ってました。妹の聡子に書き置き一つ残さずに家出を。
サトシ君はコツコツとアルバイトをしてたんです。聡子ちゃんが当時とても大きなぬいぐるみを欲しがってましてね、結構いい値段らしくて、そのためにアルバイトをいろいろとしていたらしいんです。妹思いの兄でしたからね。おじ夫婦のもとで不憫な生活を強いられている妹に少しでも立派な誕生日プレゼントを贈ろうとしているんじゃないかってみんなささやき合っていました。
In the end, he didn't use his savings for a birthday present for Satoko.
サトシ君がいなくなり、警察がいろいろと調べたら、サトシ君の貯金が当日すべて本人によって下ろされていることが分かりました。方々をいろいろと調べた結果、その貯金を資金に東京の方に行ったんではないかということになりました。
東京？何しに？
家出としか言いようがないじゃないですか。
自分が逃げ出すための資金をコツコツと貯めて、そこまでは勝手ですよ。でも聡子を置いていくことはないじゃないですか。同じ家出するなら聡子も連れて行くべきだった。
Even now, Coach was still calm. He wasn't trying to pour any oil on the fire of my anger at all. He just waited until my anger naturally subsided. After listening to gravel being crushed under the wheels for a little, Coach spoke abruptly.
察してください。置いていかれた聡子ちゃんも同じ考えに至ったんです。
I'm a burden to my brother. That's why he abandoned me. He didn't take her with him when he left. How terrible Satoko must have felt, being betrayed by the brother she loved so much.
でも聡子ちゃんはとても強い人でした。もちろん親しい友人たちの支えもあってのことでしたが、ああして笑顔を取り戻すことができました。
I recalled how Satoko had spoken of Satoshi so brightly when I was eating dinner with her and Rika-chan a few days ago. At the time, I didn't think any more of it than how pleasant their sibling love had been. But now that I think about it, I realized it was like she was peering onto the distance from atop of a pile of tragic perseverance.
サトシ君はきっと帰ってくる。その時までにお荷物じゃなくなった自分を見てほしいって。
聡子はお荷物なんかじゃないですよ。あいつ俺なんかよりよっぽど生活力はあるし、大抵のことは何だってできる。そりゃレナやリカちゃんなんかと比べれば劣る点はたくさんあるかもしれないけど、そこいらのやつよりよっぽど一人前ですよ。
サトシ君がいつ帰ってきてもいいように、そういう風になれるよう努力した結果です。
You see, you call it streaming. I call it dying. I am mentally dying right now. This shit fucking hurts, okay? I'm mentally dying. Send help. It counts. I wasn't crying earlier, no proof. You got no proof of it. Nothing. Nothing. Anyway. Pain hurts.
涙ぐましい努力があったんですよ。
While she lived with Rika-chan, while Rika-chan taught her how to handle everything flawlessly, also that she could welcome back Satoshi at any time. I hate saying that there's no way Satoshi's just... So that she could show him she wasn't ashamed.
で そのサトシはいつ帰ってくるんですか？
I hate this because I know he's demoned away. I asked Coach, but knew that he wouldn't be able to give an answer. In any case, Satoshi ran away. He left Satoko and ran away from Hinamizawa. Someone said that when you leave Hinamizawa and run away, Oyashiro-sama's curse gets you, right? Then that made sense. Satoshi running away and his disappearance, that would obviously mean people thought it was a curse, right? And they could smile, as though it was his own fault, as though he had got what he had deserved. Hey, Oyashiro-sama, whoever you are, Satoshi didn't vanish because he ran away. You demoned him away with your curse, didn't you? If that's not what happened, then I won't forgive you.
サトシはいつ頃逃げ出したんですか？
去年の綿流しのお祭りの夜、おばが異常者に殺されて、その数日後のさとこちゃんの誕生。
サトコの誕生日に？
Bang. I slammed my hands on the dashboard in front of me with all my might. Satoshi. Of all days, he could have chosen to run away. Their aunt just died a few days before, didn't she? All your days of suffering were about to end, weren't they? You were just about to start thinking about a new life, weren't you? It's wrong to be happy about someone dying, but for Satsuko and her brother, her birthday had come at a critical turning point. Their mean uncle had fled town, and the siblings would be left alone. They should have been able to be happy about that. On Satsuko's birthday. Satsuko was probably waiting for her brother to return for a whole time. Waiting for her brother to return, but he never did. I'm putting an anvil in front of my door. Waiting with bated breath for her brother to return, her hopes of and dreams of a new life growing even larger. But no matter how long she waited, he didn't come back. He didn't even contact her. Satsuko trembling in anticipation of a great present, just when would she have to face the cold and terrible truth? Satoshi, you fucking idiot. I could feel my blood rising to my head. In my anger at Satoshi, I was frustrated. I was aggravated. I couldn't forgive him. Satsuko still respected and adored her brother, and yet he heartlessly betrayed her so. Such a person wouldn't just come back, now when he is most needed. Yes, no one would protect her, not even her real brother Satoshi.
だからあなたがニーニーだと認めてもらえて嬉しかったです。私もさとこちゃんの幸せを祈る一人ですが、社会的立場があり、日中は仕事をしている身です。私がさとこちゃんのために割いてあげられる時間は少ない。でもあなたは違います。学校で生活を共にし、さとこちゃんやさとしくんとも年はほとんど離れていない。あなたは自分ができることに限りがあると思っていますが、それでも私よりはずっとさとこちゃんに手を差し伸べられる場所にいるのです。だから私の分までさとこちゃんの力になってあげてほしい、そう願っています。
そんなことは監督だって。
もちろん年季のある私だからこそできる助けだっていろいろあると思います。同じようにあなたにしかできない助けだってあるということです。私たちは互いにそれを全うすべきだと申し上げたいのです。
Was that a little too complicated? Coach added that, but I shook my head in response. When I heard him say he had job skills, it reminded me that he was an adult, in a different position from all of us. Maybe I should ask him about it.
監督は法律とか詳しいですか？
いえ、平均的に疎いですが、何か？
thought back when I argued with Mion and the others about Satoko. Our children's argument had only left us with the conclusion that we'd had to wait and see. But what would an adult think?
児童福祉法でしたっけ。児童の安全を確保するために緊急措置として親子を分離させるという方法があるそうです。
緊急措置？じゃあすぐに聡子を叔父の元から救い出せるということじゃないですか。
聡子ちゃんがそれを望まないかもしれません。
聡子が望まない？どうして？
Coach didn't answer me. I didn't know why he didn't. It was clear as day that Sasuke's uncle was being violent and treating her like a slave. So then why? I clamped down on my frenzied emotions and waited intently for Coach to answer, but he never did. It wasn't like he was pretending he hadn't heard me. If I had to say, it was most likely because he wanted to explain, but couldn't put it into the right words.
聡子ちゃんは多分そういう仕打ちに耐えるのを試練だと考えているかもしれません。
試練？変な宗教じゃあるまいし。
ご存知と思いますが、サトシ君は聡子ちゃんをずっとかばってきました。聡子ちゃんもずっとサトシ君に頼ってきました。甘えてきたと言うべきかもしれません。
I had known that for a while that Satoshi had always protected Satoko from their aunt and uncle. But that was his duty as an older brother, not something to worry about.
それがトラウマになったかもしれないんですよ。自分が兄にもたれかかりすぎたから兄が自分を嫌ってしまったんではないかってね。
And for Satoko, in the current situation, was a retelling of the story of a little over a year ago. But at this time, Satoshi wasn't
だか
here.
ら誰にも頼らずに自分の力だけで試練を乗り越えたい。そういう力を身につけなければサトシ君は帰ってこない。そういう考えになっていると私は考えます。
Now that he mentioned it, Satoko had never said a word about how hard it has been before. I figured she was being threatened not to talk about
み
it.
んなと
but-
相談して児童相談所とかに通報すべきかなんて話をしてました。
聞いてますよね。昨年も福祉士さんが聡子ちゃんのところに行ってるのは。
はい、結局様子見で余計にいじめられたって話も。
あれ聡子ちゃんが自分で通報したらしいんです。でその結果余計いじめが水面下へ移行してエスカレートした。聡子ちゃんに降りかかるいじめも増え、それをかばうサトシ君の負担も著しく増えた。
ひょっとして聡子それ通報した自分の責任だなんて思ってるんじゃ。
Oh God. Coach nodded
多分
quietly.
聡子ちゃんに通報の話をするととても嫌がるか、その必
Fucking.
要はないと強がりを言うと思います。
Oh my God. Yo, I'm sad.
聡子ちゃんに内緒で通報したとしても福祉士に対して自分は虐待を受けていないと言い張るでしょうね。
Can we not lock this motherfucker up? Like, what the hell? Humanity is fucked. Humanity is fucked in this universe. Satsuko always acts tough and doesn't readily admit defeat, so I could imagine that, no problem.
一応児童相談所には裁判所の許可も当事者の許可も一切不要で緊急措置ができる強い権限があるんだそうです。虐待が公然の事実なら聡子ちゃんが否定しても身柄は強制的に保護されるでしょう。それは聡子ちゃんにとっては
勝ち負けの問題じゃないですよ。聡子は現実に。
話を折りますが、身柄が保護されると所定の施設に送致されます。そうするとですね、そこで暮らすことになるので、つまり引っ越しということになります。ですから学区変更で転校にもなります。
転校は 仕方ないです。それであいつが保護されるなら。
聡子ちゃんはその辺の事情も知っています。だからますます保護を望みません。
What the fuck?
どうして？
あの家でサトシ君の帰りを待つのが聡子ちゃんの生きる理由でもあります。兄に捨てられた少女が何に生きる理由を見出したか、あなたのでなく聡子ちゃんの価値観で考えてあげてください。
うん。
I feel like he was trying to confuse me with that hard to understand roundabout way of talking so unique to adults. The point was that I couldn't do anything about Satoko wanting to stay in that house. And that I should watch until she gives in. In the end, no matter what I said, Coach was saying himself to wait and see.
俺はわかりませんよ。
はい。
俺は本当に聡子が危ないと感じたら誰の意思も聞かずに行動します。その結果、聡子は不快な思いをして最終的にはそれが聡子の幸せにつながると信じます。
Coach turned to me and gazed fixedly into my eyes. It was written all over his face. He was shocked at what such a young kid had said.
どうしてあなたはそこまで。
Coach, no, rather normal adults might not have understood. So I taught him the creed and the values that I believed in.
聡子は俺の仲間だから。そして俺は聡子のニーニーだから。では理由は足りませんか？
I stared at him with a will strong and unbreakable as steel, as his eyes betrayed a tiny bit of unrest.
いえ、足りないなんてことはありません。
We were silent for a while until Coach finally said only that.
誓ったじゃないですか、俺たち。
すみません。
聡子を絶対に泣かせないって。
We made a vow on the day of the barbecue party. I didn't think about it all hard at all, but Coach and I still made a promise that we would never let Satoko cry. Coach gave me a dry grin of regret, immediately apologizing for not remembering. One way or another, when he grinned like that, it made me think that his enthusiasm for saving Satoko was a tiny bit smaller than mine. He lightly hit the brakes, making a skiing noise, and my whole body suddenly fell forward.
ひょっとして前原さんのお家ってあれですか？ああ、前原屋敷が前原さんのお家だったんですね。
I mean, no, I live in the Sonozaki residence. Fuck you, Coach. Before I knew it, we were almost to my house. Why does this game hate? Why does this hate me? Why does Higurashi hate me so? First it makes me cry. Well, no, first it makes me angry, then it makes me cry, then it makes me angry again, then it makes me happy, then it makes me cry, then it makes me angry, then it makes me angry again, and then I just get to crying more, and then I just die. In any case, I got food. I don't know what this thing is. It's food, I think. You know, it was probably gotten from the sewer systems. My joke doesn't go any farther than that. I just think it came from the sewer system. Where that one person died. Why am I eating this? This doesn't taste like food. It tastes like some form of disease. I kid, obviously, but I don't know what I'm eating, so... Anyways, let's view the new tips. Or I guess new tip. Case 31? December 1st, 1981. Prefecture Juvenile Welfare Division report. Do not view and do not duplicate. Case 31, November 20th. Satoko Hojo, unknown years old. Residence, blank Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. Fuck my life. Anonymous telephone SOS of child abuse. Number 2. Abuse situation. Anonymous claims that a female child was suffering physical abuse by adopted parents, her guardians. Family structure. Blank marks abusers. Blank let's see. Adoptive father, adoptive mother, older brother, and child in question. In 1980, the child's parents died in an accident, and she was given to her uncle on her father's side, her father's younger brother. Child Consolation fucking hell center's response. On the day of the anonymous telephone the center called the child's school and asked of her situation. The next day, the welfare officer on duty visited the child's home and heard what they had to say. Both adopted parents agreed on the center's coaching. Contacted anti-abuse network in the city. As part of this suggested coaching, a district welfare officer in the area began visiting for coaching at fixed intervals. The scrawled note below the staple to report. Related information from the former official Mr. W. Refer to 1977, document D2-3, number 44. Ask Chief Investigator F from the city's education fuck my life offices he is well informed about. Is that it? Okay. Oh my god, this is hitting different. I went home, washed the day's sweat off in the shower. Normally, I could reset everything by taking a shower and forgetting all the bad things. But that didn't happen today. I got out of the shower to find a fresh underwear placed neatly in the laundry basket. Normally, I didn't stop to think about it, but today I felt happy at my mother's consideration. At the same time, however, I may realize how much Satoko must be suffering. At the very moment I was appreciating this gentle kindness, Satoko might be being bruised by her uncle's cruel words. I went up to the second floor and shut myself in my bedroom. Then facing my desk, I folded my arms. My topic of thought, of course, was Satoko. We thought that if we could just go get a public agency to intervene right away, the problem would be solved. But with what Coach said, I didn't think it would be that easy. Satoko was... well, she would just be so stubborn to deny the abuse and try to endure it. And that was an act of atonement towards Satoshi, who had protected her before and then ran away. As long as she thought that way, the situation couldn't be that simple. But earlier, before Coach, I made a clear declaration. If I thought Satoko was in danger, then I would do what I will do. In the end, that meant that I was just gonna... fucking hell, I right-clicked. I was just gonna wait and see too. Nevertheless, I thought I'd drawn a clearer line than Coach nor my friends had. If the time came, I would report it. Over the phone. Given Satsuko's personality, she might criticize me if she found out, but I believe that it was ultimately the best decision. Wait a minute, Keiji, my bruh. Would that really be all it took for the problem to end? Say that I reported to the public agency, like the child God, Keiji, how do you know these words? Ugh. What if they stuck into their wait-and-see attitude like last year again? Last year, they decided to do that, and the situation improved temporarily, but then the aunt, thinking herself as a laughingstock, increased her tormenting in secret. In the end, things became more underhanded than before. This year, it was her uncle. I had just seen him for the first time today, but the man seemed much more direct, and much more violent than the word underhanded could imply. He wasn't like their aunt, no, not that subtle. He was more direct. He might also assault her with punches and kicks. That could easily be discerned from the bruises in which I saw on Satoko's body. Shit, you're too naive, Keiichi Maibara. However heroic it might be to report something that is happening such as this, it doesn't save her. And if it doesn't save her, it doesn't mean anything. Reporting things to a public agency was the only option, and leaving everything to them would be dangerous. We would need something more to guarantee Satoko's safety. I scratched madly at my head thinking, and then tilted back, wanting at least a bit of calm. The memories of angry arguing with my friends today came to my mind. I was embarrassed when I hadn't realized until Reina had said something. She was right. My house is big. Compared to all the houses with the straw thatched roofs in Hinamazawa, it was really big. We did actually have empty rooms. I never thought that we'd be affluent, but also never thought that we were poor. I just didn't admit because people would think that I was arrogant. But maybe my family really is wealthy. We had a few rooms that we could lend to Satoko. The guest rooms had only been there in use when people related to my dad's job would come over and stay every once in a while. Plus, if we cleaned up a few rooms my dad had uses for storage, we could work for her as well. As for food expenses, it might have been a more serious problem than a kid like me could imagine. Lunch every day would be manageable. All of our friends would have to bring a little bit more for lunch than they usually did. With everyone pecking at everyone else's food anyway, that would be manageable. For breakfast and dinner, though, that would have to be up to Mom. I would need to convince her to lend Satoko more than just a room. Of course, I don't even think convincing her of that would be easy. About how much did it cost for one person to eat? How many tens of thousands of yen per month? They couldn't complain about it if I shouldered that, could they? I only had 10 or 20,000 yen in savings, but it was something. I actually had even more thanks to New Year's gifts and such, but my parents had taken that all and put it into a fixed time deposit. If I could get access to that, it should add up to a lot of money. And if I had gotten that far, I should ask Mion and Reina to share some of the burden. Of course, I wouldn't depend on that. Reina got mad at me, didn't she? So, about how I shouldn't shove responsibility onto others. I'd have to ask for help. Even so, I'd basically be saving her myself. I would follow through onto it. Oh, but it wouldn't be only food expenses. There would be a lot of other things that you couldn't do without, like baths and laundry. My mother was awfully strict about cutting out inefficiencies, and for once, that was troublesome. She might even make reference to the money it would cost for the detergent Satoko would use for her own clothes. I couldn't think about only food expenses. I needed more money. Hey, wait, Keiichi, my bro. Since when was this about money? Even if you could afford it, you would need your parents' permission first. They'd be looking after a young girl for a really long time. What would I say to persuade them? Just calm down a bit, Keiichi, my bro, and you'll realize right away that you can't. Even when you ask them seriously, they would just tell you to call the police. Even if you manage to gain their empathy, why should the Maibara family shoulder all of this burden by itself? That's what would happen. That was it. It was sad and frustrating, no matter how much I wanted to help. My resolution alone couldn't save anything.
そんなにも子供って無力なのかよ。
I felt frustrated. I believe my feelings were stronger than everyone else's. I even thought that they were stronger than coaches. And yet, at a point, there were 2 knocks on my door, and Mom poked her head inside.
起きてたの？さっきからご飯ってずっと呼んでるわよ。
ああ、うん。今行く。
As someone financially dependent on his parents, I shouldn't say this, but I just sat around doing nothing and food suddenly appeared. It felt so natural to me that I shamelessly thought of it as the responsibility of the parents who had gave birth to me. But when I realized it was a natural thing, that natural thing was actually a right, I came to realize how hard it was to grant that privilege to others. Even the boring meal in front of me, no better than it ever was, had more meaning than that tonight. There was food for 3 on the table now, for Dad, for Mom, and for me. I couldn't imagine how hard it would have been to add another plate on the table. Think, Keiichi Maibara. If it was hard to make food for 4, then just think about how 4 people could eat food made for 3. Oh. I changed around the way I thought, and with that I began to consider an unthinkably bold plan. That's right. I didn't need to get my parents' permission. She could just live here in secret. I got upset when I found out a while ago, but if I remembered right, if you climbed out the window and shimmied down the first floor of roof or the gutter, you could go in and out of the house discreetly from my room. Satsuko's physical ability far surpassed my own. It would be easier for her. I hadn't thought about it, but her living here secretly was actually a necessity. I only have to bring Satsuko to my house when the public agencies said they would wait and see. In other words, if Satsuko's uncle continued to be her guardian, if in such a situation word got out that she was here, her uncle would barge in and drag Satsuko back with him. Her uncle was her rightful guardian, so my parents would hand her over without an argument, no doubt. So I needed to keep it secret that she was living here. If it needs to be a secret, then having my parents' help would mean a lot, but I gotta deceive your allies first, like they always say. Okay, persuading my parents was an unrealistic proposition, so I'll search for a way to have her live in here in secret. When I was around, I would just have to be really quiet in my room on the 2nd floor. The issue was the daytime. If she was hiding from her uncle, then she shouldn't go to school. It might be lonely, but not going would be the better option. I could easily teach Satsuko the same stuff she learns in her grade. Actually, during school, I mostly help all the younger kids out rather than study my own stuff. During the day, I would need to go to school, so I wouldn't be at home. My parents respected my privacy now that I was at this age, so they wouldn't go snooping around into my room while I was gone. I think. If she hauled herself into my room, it would be okay, yeah? If my parents did come, thanks to where the 2nd floor was, she could hear their approach from the sound of them coming upstairs. And there would be a little bit of time before they got all the way up. I estimated a few seconds. That she would have to be able to hide herself in the closet. Wait, Keiichi! Something doesn't make sense. If she can't go to school, then what'll she do for lunch? Calm down already. I could just leave her my own lunch, couldn't I? I should just go to school without lunch and get everyone else to split theirs with me. Okay, that's good. No more contradictions or oversights, right? Oh, breakfast and dinner. I could somehow get her to go without breakfast. I can go with 2 meals a day when I sleep in Sundays, after all. Every night, I'd pretend as though I had a bigger appetite, and then ask for a bigger helping. And then I could just somehow give part of that to Satoko. As a test, I stood up from my seat with my plate and fish in my hands.
どうしたのケイチ？ご飯は座って食べなさい。
うん。ちょっと気分が変えたくなってさ。自分の部屋で食べてもいいかな。
ボロボロ落としてよ。食事は食卓で食べなさい。
うん。ごめん。
Hey, wait. I only tried to take away 1 plate of fish. And they ganged up on me? In reality, it was impossible for me to smuggle food away without my parents even knowing it. But it must have been worth taking the time to think about. There must have been some trick, some method to avoiding them realizing. Even if I can't think of one today, I might think of one tomorrow. My appetite was rapidly fading, so I finished early and went back to my room. I went back there and tried to think about it from Satoko's point of view. For example, let's say my parents were coming up the stairs right now. I've got to hide. I opened the closet. Clatter, clatter, clatter. It didn't open quietly. Hey, wait. Didn't it always open real smooth and quiet? Why was it suddenly doing this now? Was this house even structurally safe? Was it showing signs of that word? Or were the hinges just not greased well enough? Could I just apply some lubricating wax? The sound itself may have been soft, but it left me uneasy as to whether my parents would detect it happening when they climbed the stairs. But this was an easy problem I could do something about. I just had to fix it up a little bit so it didn't make a noise anymore. For now, I'll close myself in the closet, as though I'd successfully hid. I basically always left my futon out on the floor. I couldn't think of any real reason my parents would want to go into my closet. Even so, there still might be some reason they would. I might need to construct some sort of camouflage so that she wouldn't be noticed even if they had opened it. But the more she worried about that, the less time she would have to actually hide, meaning that it would be more likely that they'd hear a noise. And then I suddenly had to go to the bathroom. The bathroom? The need to use the toilet is so obvious and yet such a fatal flaw. The only bathroom was on the first floor. It would be absolutely impossible for her to use it without my family realizing. I might have to set up a portable toilet, like a... Oh my god. Satsuko would hate it. She could go... Oh my god. But the stench would be pretty terrible. Ugh, anyone sensitive would probably notice the smell without even coming into the room. The bath was okay, though. She could take a bath when my parents were out, but I couldn't do anything about the toilet. When her stomach started to hurt, if my parents were lazing around downstairs, she'd be in trouble. It was then that I noticed that I had been clawing at my head with both hands. I sat down in the dark closet with my knees against my chest. I buried my face in them and tore at my hair. The more I thought, the more contradictions popped up. The more I thought, the more things failed. The more I worried, the more I was reminded of how little power I actually had. My back started to hurt from staying in the cramped place for so long. But if I was to shelter Satsuko, then I would need to force her to feel this pain. To live in such a dark, narrow, suffocating place forever. But it would still be better than being abused by her uncle, or so I wanted to think. It got hard to breathe, so I gave in and crawled out of my closet. I looked at the clock and to my surprise, it was 3:30 in the morning. It had felt like such little time, but it was unbelievably long. When I realized that, I was slammed with a terrible urge to sleep, as if the time had only just caught up with me. I didn't have enough strength to fight it. I just fell flat onto my futon. Shit, I can't go to sleep like this. If I was to waste time on that, then that'll mean I'll be taking the same wait-and-see attitude that Mion and Coach and everyone else did. I needed to keep worrying about how to rescue Satoko for a minute, or even a second longer, than anyone else. Isn't there a better way? Isn't there a better way? That one phrase I spoke to myself swirled around and around in a spiral, and steadily took over my entire mind. For my last moment of consciousness, I thought. There were a lot of blind spots that I'd consider tonight, but I absolutely wasn't wrong for having these ideas. Tomorrow, I would suggest this bold plan to the others. Mion might be able to help somehow, and Reina was really sharp, so she might have a good suggestion. And above all, we needed to rescue Satsuko once again, with everyone helping out. I felt pathetic for letting myself fall asleep. I'm sorry, Satsuko. Jesus Christ. The ceiling blurred into view. It was hot. There was a thin layer of moist sweat on me. The voices of the cicadas were what the fuck? And somehow
あれ今日日曜日じゃないよな
I remember today was a weekday and quickly brought myself to consciousness. And finally I leaped out of bed. The clock. It was a little before 10. I was totally late. When I wandered downstairs, my mom would get mad at me. There was nothing I could do, though. After reviewing the schedule for the school day for a moment, I suitably rearranged the stuff in my bag. I hurried and got dressed, and then went downstairs. There was no sign of my parents anywhere. Maybe they went out somewhere together. So that's how it was. My mother had probably woken me up this morning, but I fell back to sleep without even remembering it. And my parents, thinking I had gone to school, left. Something like that probably happened. I went to the front door, and as I expected, it was locked. Looked like I was right. It was further evidence that my speculation was being correct. When I realized my parents weren't here, I suddenly felt less like I had to rush to get to school. There was one portion of breakfast left in the dining room, probably mine. The milk they poured in it had gone warm since a while ago. When I realized how hard it would be to sneak food for Satoko, yesterday I cried. Well, thinking back on it, food wasn't really the only issue in regard. I wasn't in the position where I could care for Satoko by myself anyway. It's such a heavy thing just to save a single person. I had seen this on TV and comics all the time. Those feel-good words about how you'll save your friends for sure and such. Wasn't that why I ran my mouth like that? Swearing to save her because I wanted to feel good about it? No, that absolutely wasn't true. Because the fact was, I couldn't save her. Because I didn't want to think like an adult. Like I couldn't do anything but watch. Had Satoko gotten to school already? I immediately realized that it was a meaningless question. Whether or not she did, there wouldn't be a change in the environment she had been placed in. If I couldn't save her, then no one else could either. Then we could only pray for a miracle.
俺たちは無力か
With a vague goal of getting to school in mind, I sluggishly put my shoes on and stumbled out the front door. I had only overslept by 2 or 3 hours, but the sunlight and air felt completely different from how I usually were in the morning. Well, of course they did. Once 10 o'clock came around, you could barely call it morning anymore. I didn't feel like walking the same old road to school. I needed to ultimately end up there, but it was like I didn't want to choose the shortest route, the most proactive one to get to school. Put in more of positive light, I wanted some more time to walk by myself and think. I had to go to school, partly to make sure Satsuko was safe. But I hadn't come up with any plans yet. Nothing since last night. So the path I took from my house was in the complete opposite direction. If I went this way, I'd pass Reina's house and the dam site. It would be quite the detour. I calculated how long a detour it would be ended up being then. Satisfied with the answer, I started to walk. This world hurts. I'm in pain. Reina had brought me to the dam site a few times. One section of it had turned into an unlawful organized garbage dump. Oversize. And Reina really liked going fishing for junk in there. Oh yeah, that was something she did a lot in Chapter 1, wasn't it? Without that, she came off as a completely normal girl, too. That's Reina for you, isn't it? I could think of a few other qualities she could do without, but whatever. Yeah, like wanting to take cute things home, regardless of whether or not it's a living being. The view quickly opened up wide, and I was hit with a strong wind. There was no shelter here at this big dam site. Maybe it was a good thing I came here, I thought. At the very least, it was more healthy to think about the stuff in a place like this instead of my cramped bedroom. I took a deep breath and filled my lungs with the rich, cooled air unique to Hinamizawa. Ring ring. I turned around reflexively. It was a bicycle bell. Considering where I was standing, I didn't think that they were trying to get me out of the way. They rang the bell because they wanted something from me. Tomatake? Huh? Tomatake? Buddy! Hey! What the fuck are you doing here? You're from Hinamizawa, right? Oh, that's right, we haven't met him yet in this chapter. Yes, why? I've seen this person around a few times. Right, I remembered. His name, I think, was Tomatake, a freelance photographer who lived in Tokyo. He would zealously visit Hinamizawa every season to take pictures, or so Mion and the others have told me, I think.
フルデ神社ってここからどう行けばいいか教えてもらえないかい？マップを宿に置いてきちゃったみたいでね。困ってたんだよ。
ここから神社ですか？
I knew where everything was in my head, but explaining how to get there was a bit difficult. I was a little irritated having been bothered by this, but when I realized that it meant my detour actually meant something, that feeling faded quickly.
教えてもいいですけど、ちょっと口で説明するのは難しいですよ。一緒でよければ連れて行ってあげますけど。
え？それはかたじけないね。助かるよ。あ、でもいいのかい？君の用事は。
Tomatake finally appeared to have realized how strange it was for a student like me to be out here at this time of day. I smoothly told him not to worry about it and turned my back and started walking towards the Furude Shrine. Tomatake hurried and turned his bike around and came after me.
ごめんごめん。気にしないでくれよ。男には組織を離れて一匹狼になりたい時もあるんだからね。
I mean, I kind of like being a lone wolf. I think it's cool. I think it's fucking badass. But everyone always thinks I'm cute or some shit. I don't fucking know anymore. What a free-minded freelancer. It was easy for me, too, that he was under that impression. I'm Tomatake, a freelance photographer. Yeah, about that, pal. I kind of know you. Please don't die again is all I fucking ask. Like, can we have a Higurashi chapter to where Tomatake doesn't fucking die? I specialize in wild birds and landscapes. I'm still pretty unknown, though. It seemed absurd for him to introduce himself when I was showing him to the shrine, but he gave his name, so I need to give mine back. I'm Maibara. Pleased to meet you, I guess. Maibara-kun? Pleased to meet you. He seemed to be a pretty silly man, but that felt kind of good considering that I'd been suffocating with worry over Satoko all night. Along the way, Tomotake-san spoke at length to me about how precious the nature of Hinamizawa was, and how it was a treasure trove of wild birds, despite my not having asked. Alright, hop in, gamers! We're about to go find out who asked! I wasn't interested in what he had to say, but he seemed to be enjoying himself, so I let him do it.
この石段を上がれば神社の境内です。
ありがとう。助かったよ。ああ、ちょっと遅刻しちゃったかな。
As Tomotake mumbled to himself and left his bicycle nearby and started to climb the stairs quickly. I didn't have to watch, but as far as my eternal clock could guess, I'm still a little late in the morning. School wasn't very far from here. Maybe I can kill a little more time until then. With that in mind, I went up the steps in pursuit of Tomotake-san. When I reached the top of the long staircase, I arrived at the wide open shrine grounds that were too grand looking for this tiny village. Tomotake. Oh, there he is. He looked like he was supposed to be meeting someone here. And then he got lost, ended up being here. He was bowing to a lady who must have been the person. Oh no. Fuck! Fuck! It's Takano! It's Takano! Oh no! I was so happy to see Tomotake that I forgot immediately who he affiliates himself with. Son of a bitch! Actually, if you die, Takano, nobody would care. Like, nobody would care. Get drenched in oil and burn, bitch. I'm sorry, I know that's mean, but fuck Takano. Fuck you, Takano. You've done so much shit, and I hate you for it. You are evil. You are so fucking evil. Like, oh my god, I can't even begin to fathom how evil you are.
あ
That lady I knew.
ら、前原くんじゃない。こんにちは。今日は学校はお休みかしら？
あれ？なんだ、ケイイチ君ついてきたのかい？
別にそんなつもりはないですよ。ただちょっと時間つぶしがしたかっただけです。
あらあら、重役出勤とは優雅なものね。さすがは有名人。今から大物ぶりを発揮してること。
What? Was I a celebrity? Well, she did say my name out of nowhere anyway. I was oddly concerned about what she meant by famous. I think she was talking to Tomotake.
あら、私の名前はまだ思い出せない？
Takano, I don't want to remember you, period.
高野美代さんだよ。
Thanks, Tomotake. I'm so glad you told me.
村の診療所に勤めてる。
Oh, you're fucking amazing.
ケイイチ君は健康そうだから、あまり病院のお世話にはならないかな。
せっかくお知り合いになれたんだから、今度病気か何かできたら、ちょっぴりだけサービスしてあげようかしら。
Don't word it like that. Don't word it and laugh like that. This lady named Takano-san, I kind of didn't remember her. Maybe we passed by each other on the street a few times, but I was pretty sure that this was the first time we'd ever talked. Well, this is Hinamizawa. Even if I don't know a person's name, it's not unusual for them to know mine. I glanced at Takano-san, and she had a bag and a camera.
ひょっとして二人とも写真仲間ですか？あ、それで待ち合わせを。
仲間でなんてとんでもない。素人の私に二郎さんが優しく手ほどきをしてくださるだけなのよ。ねえ。
そんなことないよ。高野さんは飲み込みが早いからね。僕の指導なんかなくても実に自由に撮影をこなすよ。本当さ。
I couldn't tell which one of them was ahead in the conversation. Well, they were certainly one couple you couldn't get tired of watching.
いよいよあさってが綿流しね。
Wait. Oh my god, Wat Nagashi is that close from now? Holy shit. I didn't even think about that. So it's 2 days from now. No. No. I don't want to think about that shit. Hell no.
今年はいい写真が撮れるといいんだけど。
We're fucked. We're fucked. We're fucked. Someone's gonna die and disappear. And it's gonna be... Oh my god. I'm gonna have to kill Tepe.
明日の設営シーンからレンズに収めるつもりだよ。そういう準備風景からもお祭りの活力を捉えたいんだ。
Oh, I just remembered. There was a village festival called the Wat Nagashi or something on the day after tomorrow, on Sunday.
ひなみ沢の守り神、お社様に感謝するため、古い布団を積み重ねて供養する、そんなお祭りでしたっけ？
あら、ご名答。前原くん、引っ越してきたばかりにしては博識ね。そう。お社様に感謝するためのお祭り。
Takano smiled somehow meaningfully, but didn't tell me what part of the festival to think Oyashiro-sama needed to be laughed at.
やれやれ。高野さんは。
I already know. Let me guess, you're gonna tell me some fucked up shit before I leave. And then all my worries for Satoko is going to rise up to the roof. My big sibling fucking brain is going to fucking jump into action, I swear. You can't do this to me. You can't do this to me. My fucking big sibling brain just makes me want to protect. And you cannot do this to me, Takano. I will genuinely attack.
でもどうだろうね、今年は。
2度あることは3度ある。
No one says that these days.
そしてもう4度あったのよ。5度目がないと言える方が何の根拠もないと思うけれど。
Fucking making a star on this pentagram. I knew what they meant by their whispered exchange. On the day of a Wat Nagashi, a freak death always occurs, which people call Oyashiro-sama's curse, and disappearance occurs that people call being demoned away. These strange events had happened 4 years running, and Wat Nagashi rapidly approaching the day after tomorrow marked the 5th.
村の旧敵にたたりをなすお社様か。今年もあるとして、果たしてその矛を受けるのは誰になるだろうね。あ、僕はここに来るたびにちゃんとお参りしてお賽銭を入れてる。僕じゃないことは確かだよ。
あらそう。近年のお社様は異邦人には特に厳しいって話よ。引っ越してきたばかりとはいえ、前原くんはちゃんとひなみ沢に住んでる村人だけど、二郎さんは毎年来るだけのただのよそ者。さーて、今年は見逃してもらえるかしら。
ひどいな。
I don't know. I mean, my bro, my buddy, you kind of died in the last 2 chapters. You died 2 times in the last 2 chapters. I would not put it past you if you died again. I don't want you to. Don't get me wrong. You're fucking awesome. But I would not put it past this visual novel if you died again. If anything, it feels like a tradition. Well, I mean, it technically is, but you know what I mean. Tomosuke was the only one with a pained grin, but we were all smiling, me included. Oyashiro-sama, the one who used a curse to kill people involved with the damn construction project, one after the next. He killed the damn project construction manager, killed Satsuko's parents for supporting it, and the next year, even killed her aunt. If the demoning away was a part of that curse, then you could add Satoshi to the list of victims. As I thought about it, I realized that the serial freak death incidents, an overwhelmingly majority had the last name of Hojo. Half of the deaths and disappearance had come from the Hojo family. The Hojo family lived here in Hinamizawa. Oh. Didn't that mean Oyashiro-sama punished and cursed them particularly harshly because despite that, they had been in favor of the dam?
聡子の叔父が帰ってきたって話は聞いてますか？
Yeah, let's talk about that, shall we? Let's talk about that. Let us talk about that. Takano-san, who had been enjoying the few words with Tomosuke-san, was caught unaware by my sudden inquiry.
あ、ごめんなさい。今なんて？
あ、いえ、聡子の両親がたたり殺されて、おばもたたり殺されて、だったら順番的には次は叔父の番かなって思ったんです。去年のたたりでおばが無残な死に方をし、それに恐れをなして町に逃げていたやつですよ。お社様は確か村を捨てて逃げ出そうとするのは許さなかったですよね。
I didn't intend to be quite this persistent, but those words, they just flowed out of my mouth without me thinking about it. Right. Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't believe in something so unrealistic, of course, but the fact was that every year unfortunate accidents and incidents happened to enemies of the village. Like Takano-san said just now, it happened 4 times. Oh, fuck. Sorry. So no one could say that there wouldn't be a 5th.
ふーん。面白い説ね。確かに過去の犠牲者を見れば北条姓が多いのは事実。その延長として考えれば今年は叔父が死ぬか消えるかする可能性は
Yeah, you know, or ordinarily I wouldn't like her laughter, but since it's talking about Tepe, yeah, I don't give a shit. Laugh all you want, girl.
もう高野さんは起こるかもしれない不幸を笑うのは良くないよ。
What if I want it to happen? Smile.
ごめんなさいね。でもお社様のたたりは私のライフワークだし。
Then let's make it Tepe's last line of work. I'm gonna protect my little sister here, okay? Fuck off. Takano gave off a mysterious yet somehow intellectual impression, and her life's work was mysterious in its own right. She probably really liked inexplicable supernatural fucking. I'm having a stroke!
高野さんはお社様のたたりに詳しそうですね。どうでしょう、北条の帰ってきた叔父がたたりに会う可能性は。
あら何？そのおじさんを殺したくて仕方がないみたいね。
そんなんじゃないです。
どうだろうね。神様の気まぐれ次第だからね。
前原くん、サンタクロースの正体は知ってる？
What a fucking dumb question. Huh? I got a strange question all of a sudden. I couldn't even immediately answer.
なに？知らないの？
Can we? Okay, I want to take a second to appreciate this art. But then again, I could say that for pretty much almost all the fucking art in Higurashi. It's just so good.
パパよ。みんなの家のパパ。
なんだ、そういう意味ですか。そりゃそうですよ。どんなものの正体だって最終的には人間です。だってここは人間しかいない世界なんですから。全ての現象は人間で解明できるはずです。
I really want to eat my food, but like, Fucking multitasking here. I felt like I put that somewhat strangely, but Takano-san was not dissatisfied with the reply that I might have guessed.
あら、その年齢のうちからそれに気づけるなんてなかなかね。その人間
Oh,
の世で
fucking
起
hell.
こる現象
I hate it when they stop talking like that and then they just continue
全て人間
talking.
の都合で人間が起こす。
I accidentally skip over their shit because of that.
では前原くん、もう一度尋ねるわよ。今度はサンタクロースじゃなくてお社様。
Oh, I mean, yeah, we've already had that kind of concept before, but ooh, just you saying that, you really threw a curveball.
お社様のたたりの正体は何かわかるかしら？
Takano-san took a step towards me, gazed into my eyes as she asked. Santa Claus was really the parents of every family's children. If lionizing that legend was a corporate tactic to try to profit during Christmas sales, then what was Oyashiro-sama really?
あら、あなたが言ったのよ。ここは人間しかいない世界だって。すべての現象は人間で解明できるって。
ケイチ君。
No, you said my bro. I almost choked on my food. How the fuck does Tomosuke saying Keiichi-kun when the subtitles reads Maibara-kun? Why does that make me laugh?
ここだけの話だよ。高野さんはね、お社様のたたりをめぐる一連の連続開始事件をね、ひなみ沢の村人が何かの儀式に基づいて行っている人為的殺人事件でないかと見ているんだよ。
誤解しないでね。私はそれに至る教義や思想、文化を民族学的見地から研究することがライフワークなの。別に犯人が誰かなんてことには全く興味がないのよ。そこだけ勘違いしないでちょうだいね。
I could tell only that she was saying some crazy ass stuff. To use a food analogy, like you'd force feed a duck to be fattened, she could use her words down my throat. She forced her words down my throat, and that's what it all felt like.
そもそもそれを理解するためには、ひなみ沢村が鬼ヶ淵村と呼ばれていた古代にまで遡らなければならない。鬼と血を交わらせたと信じる犯人犯鬼の仙人たちが。
Takano-san, having entered her home field, leaned towards and began to speak in ridiculous matters. Tomosuke realized that she was overdrawing me and interrupted for me.
高野さん、その話をいきなりケイチ君にしても。ほら、彼も面食らってるよ。
あら、そう？続きに興味があったらいつでも言ってね。前原くんくらいの年頃の男の子が好きそうな猟奇的なお話がてんこ盛りなんだけど。
Oh, I know you have a lot of stories. It's a matter of, do I want to fucking hear them? And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I wanna.
ありがとうございます。気が向いたらそのうちに。
For now, I softly and safely gave my refusal. Tomosuke seemed a little unhappy that wait, did I say Tomosuke? Takano seemed a little unhappy that Tomosuke-san had rained on her parade, but she stopped talking about it then. Even so, it was still a very interesting story. That Oyashiro-sama's curse, which we thought of as strange freak deaths, were really homicides perpetrated by people of the village.
まあその常識的に考えればそうですよね。たたりなんかで人が死ぬはずない。誰かがたたりになぞらえて殺してるに決まってます。
そうね。それが誰なのかは研究しない方が無難ね。
高野さんは知ってそうですね。証拠はないまでも 確信を持っているくらいには。
あら、どうしてそう思うのかしら？
I just kind of felt it vaguely. It didn't seem like her extreme passion for this research would calm down just because of things were taboo, or because it was safer and easier. This person loved walking through the profound and forbidden abyss of risks and taboos. Yeah, didn't Chapter 2 teach us that shit?
それくらいにしなよ、圭一君。せっかく助けてあげたのに、またお社様のたたりの話が始まっちゃうよ。涼しいうちに散策に行きたかったのにな。
Tomosuke seemed a little disappointed not to be able to go on the date he had planned since I'd brought up the weird topic. But right now, there's something I wanted to ask just for a little bit, and that was about whether Satsuko's uncle will be chosen to be the curse this year. And if he was, then another miracle would happen, just like last year. A terrible incident would happen again, but it would release Satsuko from her unfortunate circumstances once more.
まあ、もちろんおそらくあの辺りの人たちが関わってるんだろうなっていう鬼ヶ淵村の歴史を研究していれば自然と至る必然的結末。
それは誰です？
What would I do if I knew? I'd ask the question to the other me deep inside, but I got no reply.
熱心ね。それを知ってどうするつもりかしら？
別に。
知ったらあなたにも危険が降りかかるかもしれないわよ。5年目のたたりはあなただったりして。
Takano-san, toying with the taboo, gave a devilish, satisfied smile, as though nothing in the world could be more amusing. She was probably trying to tease me, but I didn't feel like going along with her little game one bit.
偉そうな能書きでもったいぶってますが、高野さんだってよくは分かってないみたいじゃないですか。
I felt a tinge of irritation in Takano-san's roundabout way of speaking. But those emotions escaped my mouth, like water flowing through a strainer. Oh, now you know about that. Even I was surprised at how directly I had spoken about how I felt. Of course, I wasn't the only one taken back.
あら、言ってくれるわね。坊やなのに挑発までできるの？意外に野生的ね。嫌いじゃないわよ、そういうの。
You scare me. Takano's tongue poked out of her mouth, and I was convinced that it was long, thin, and split in the middle like a snake's. What the fuck?
ならいいわ。教えてあげてもよくってよ。でも、教えてあげる前に3つ誓ってもらうわ。
This is gonna suck, isn't it?
私が何を教えても後悔しない。口外しない。
Fair enough, makes sense.
私が言ったなんて絶対言わない。
The first one seems to be the only potential issue. Everything else, sure, fine. I gulped firmly and then nodded. Tomosuke made an exaggerated expression of distress, gave a dry, vague smile, and lit a cigarette.
教えてください。たたりを下しているのは、たたる相手を選んでいるのは誰なんです？
After I said that, I finally realized why I wanted to know. I hate you! No! Put me back! 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 Don't you do it, motherfucker! Thank God. No, don't you shut the, no, go fuck yourself, bitch. Many of my classmates were playing freely in the schoolyard. A few of them had just run out of school in the building, putting their shoes and tapping their toes on the ground. It looked like they had just finished eating lunch. From a little time manipulating standpoint, I guess I had succeeded.
前原さん、大丈夫なんですか？
A few girls noticed me and came running over. It was only natural they'd be worried. You'd think that someone wasn't here in the morning, that they'd be out in the rest of the day.
まあ遅刻さ。気にしないでくれ。それより、聡子はどうだ？ 今日は来てるか？
The girls exchanged glances. I saw a thin shadow fall over their faces and knew the answer without needing them to reply. Satoko was absent today, too. When all was said and done, after being out for 3 days, she'd only come back for 1. And now she was out again. Who knew if she would come tomorrow?
うん。でも、さとこちゃんから電話があったって先生言ってました。
風邪って言ってたよね。みんな家に帰ったらうがいをちゃんとしましょうって先生言ってました。
Wait a minute, Chie-san. That was a little thick-headed, don't you think? You're the teacher, aren't you? Why can't you be a little more sensitive to catch on the fact that your pupil is sending out an SOS? But even if she did, there was nothing we could hope for. The most she could do was a home visitation. She didn't have any right to take Satoko from her uncle into safety. No matter the result, it would end up just being like the public agencies, with a wait-and-see attitude. It would just piss Satoko's uncle off, and her suffering would only grow deeper. Then, wasn't saying that she had a cold the best option, perhaps?
そうだな。みんなも風邪に気をつけろよ。もう行っていいぜ。昼休みはまだ長いぞ。
The girls excitedly scattered into the Oh, Reina! Reina was yelling out of the classroom window, waving her hand. A moment later, Mion and Rika-chan poked their heads out too.
圭一までお休みしましたから、とても心配しましたのですよ。でもよかった。顔色もそんなに悪くないし、とりあえず元気そう。
I felt a little uncomfortable with her saying that I didn't look sick, but I didn't care that much.
どうしたの？寝坊？
遅刻は遅刻だろ。それとも電車の事故で遅刻したとでも言えば許してくれるのか？
Because of a train accident.
寝坊？
Mion was being a bit persistent. She was going to put her clothes present cap and scold me for being late. Well, maybe she didn't have it in it for me today, so I briefly stated that she was right.
まだね、お弁当あるよ。みんなで食べよう。やっぱりね、圭一くんがいないと盛り上がらないよね。
さとこは休みなんだな。
Even Reina, fringing cheerfulness, couldn't stand to hear that. Her face darkened.
朝、電話があったらしいよ。風がぶり返したから、また休むってさ。長引くかもしれないって言ってた。かわいそうなので、みんなでお見舞いに行こうという話が出ていますのですよ。
何言ってんだよ、リカちゃん。
Not pleased with Rika-chan wearing a wide smile, though it was a happy occasion, I threw cold water on her.
さとこが風邪なんかじゃないことは、俺たちが一番知ってるだろう。たとえ冗談でも、二度とそういう白々しいことを言うな。次は怒るからな。
Rika-chan furrowed her brow and looked down and mumbled an apology.
圭一くんだけじゃないよ。みんな辛いよ。
俺だけが悩んでるなんて思ってない。でも、みんな何もできないのは本当だろ。
それはそうだけど。でも。
I got the feeling that I would cause another fight if this exchange went on, so I apologized
ごめん、
first.
謝るから、今の話は忘れてくれ。辛いのは、みんなも同じだよな。ああ。
It was the last clear, however, that was the only one who had worried so much. Yeah. At the very least, everyone should probably get a normal amount of sleep last night. Probably had good dreams, too. They definitely hadn't stayed up all night thinking so desperately.
登校してきていきなりこんなこと聞いて気を悪くするかもしれないけど、ケイちゃん、今日遅刻したよね。さとこが今日欠席したこととは関係ある？
は？ミオン、お前何の話してるんだ？
ケイちゃんはたまにちょっとつ盲信なところがあるからね。今朝 聡子と一緒にケイちゃんも休んだ時、聡子を家から連れ出してどこかにかくまったんじゃないかって本気で思った。
Easy for you to say. If I could have, I would have done that last night. None of them had really thought about how difficult that clear as day solution was. I was up thinking all night, thinking until the night was brightening. And then I concluded that I couldn't do anything of the sort.
バカかお前。人間一人かくまうなんてできるもんかよ。
そうだね。ごめん。気を悪くしたなら謝るよ。
別にいいよ。それより飯にしようぜ。腹が減ってんだ。
I took my bento box out of my bag. Everyone moved to make a spot for me to sit.
前原くん、今来たんですか？
And just as I was about to stick my chopsticks in, Chie-san came along.
あ、はい。遅刻してすみません。寝坊しまして。
What the heck? Even the teacher was giving me a strange look.
お弁当を食べたら、院長と前原くんは職員室に来てください。ちょっとお話がありますので。
It's probably about Satoko, at least that's what I'm assuming. Sensei left at the hand. Wait, and the president? That means Mion. Why is Mion getting involved? I was the only one late, right? So why is Mion getting dragged into this? Unless Mion was also late and I didn't know.
弁当を食うまでもないだろう。行こうぜ、ミオ。
うん。そうだね。
Mion and I exchanged looks, nodded at each other, and got up.
聡子ちゃんの話だろうね。
No doubt about it. They were saying she had a cold, but everyone in class knew the truth. I didn't think that it would have reached the teacher's ears by now, though.
僕がずっととぼけるので、僕に聞くのをやめたのでしょう。
Revealing the truth to the teacher would only worsen the situation. Was that why she hadn't said anything? Or was it because she was Satoko's friend and knew that she was trying to endure the trial of her uncle's abuse in order to get her brother to come home?
どうする？今のうちに私たちなりの統一見解を出した方がいいかもね。
リカちゃんはどうしたい？
Satoko's closest and best friend was Rika. However much I pretended to be her Nini, it didn't come close to the amount of time that they had spent together. So I felt like her opinion should be held in the highest regard.
俺はサトコがどうしておじにいじめられてるのを耐えてるか知ってる。
Everyone looked startled and turned to me.
昔のサトコはいじめられるときっと泣きながら兄の背中に隠れてた。でも結局そのせいで兄が逃げてしまったんだとサトコは思ってる。
誰に聞いたのかな？
監督か。
Yep. I nodded quietly.
サトコはおじのいじめに耐えれば兄が帰ってくると信じることによって今を耐え抜こうとしているのかもしれない。でもそんな思い込みとサトシが帰ってくるのは全く無関係なことだ。サトコには悪いがそれが現実だ。
Everyone hung their heads. Everyone was thinking the same thing.
サトコは多分誰の助けも喜ばない。自分一人の力で耐え忍びたいと思ってる。でもそれを尊重してやるのが果たして正しいだろうか。俺は思わない。一時サトコに恨まれることになろうとサトコの意志にかかわらず助けるべき時があると思う。俺はそれが今じゃないかと思ってる。
I told them all about what I had saw and how I felt when I went to Satoko's house yesterday.
ケイチ君は話すべきだと思ってるってことだね。
もちろん公的機関への通報でサトコが保護されるのが確定してからだ。その確認のないうちはサトコをかえって危険にさらすこともありえるからな。
難しいね。先生との会話の中で その確約ってのが取れるわけ？
I had no confidence, but we had to try. Meanwhile, Rika-chan and her head raised for a while, as if asking for an opportunity to speak.
圭一に任せますです。
いいのかいリカちゃん。
圭一はここにいる誰よりも聡子のことを考えていますです。その圭一が話すべき時だと判断したなら、僕は文句なんか言わないのですよ。
ありがとう。ミオもレナもそれでいいか？
Mion seemed to hesitate, not knowing if she should agree. But when she saw Reina's firm nod, she made up her mind and did the same.
よし。
Alright, fuck yeah.
行くぞ、ミオ。
We're really doing this, huh? Okay, only Chie-sensei was in the teacher's lounge. We didn't see the principal anywhere. The schedule on the blackboard under the principal's name said, training, going straight home. Our principal's sense of justice was too strong. Satoko's problems wouldn't be solved with something so vague. Maybe it was a stroke of good luck that he wasn't here. When the teacher saw Mion and I come in, she closed up her curry bento and saving the rest for later.
そこへおかけなさい。
She told us to take a seat in the chairs directly in front of the principal's seat. I hadn't sat in this chair since doing the paperwork for transferring in. The two of us sat there uncomfortably before the teacher walked in carrying a notebook and a ballpoint pen and sat in front of us.
前原くん、今日は午前中お休みでしたけど、何かありましたか？
I overslept.
すみません、寝坊です。
本当に？
先生に嘘言っても。
She narrowed her eyes at me in suspicion. Now I was sure of it. She wanted to talk about Satoko.
まず、二人とも知ってると思いますけど、お友達の北条さんがここしばらくお休みしてますね。
Neither Mion and I had anything to say in response. But the teacher proceeded, not minding.
何か知っていますか？クラスで良くない噂をしている人たちがいます。
Mion looked down and remained silent, as though she were being lectured. She sent me a quick glance. Everyone had made up their minds. They would be leaving things to me.
委員長？前原くんも。先生は別に怒ってるんじゃありませんよ。もしも知っていたら教えてほしいとお願いしているだけです。
先生、先にこっちから質問してもいいですか？
She must not have anticipated that response. She looked a little surprised.
クラス中で聡子のどんな噂が飛び交ってるかは知りませんが、仮にその噂が真実だったとして、先生はどうするつもりですか？
どうするもこうするも、その話が本当なら放っておけません。
放っておけないって、具体的にはどう放っておけないんですか？
Sensei's eyebrows shot up. Maybe I said it like I was trying to pick a fight.
前原くん、先生は真面目にお話ししてるんですよ。
先生こそ、俺はすごく真面目な話をしているんです。まず答えてください。真実だったとしてどう放っておけないんです？
Sensei took a few deep breaths and began to speak slowly.
まず状況を確かめるために北条さんの家を家庭訪問します。
おじに怒鳴りつけられて追い返されるかもしれませんね。まあいいや。仮におじと聡子に会えたとします。それで？
そして真意を聞きます。その事実が確認できたなら指導します。
指導って曖昧な言い方はやめてください。具体的には何をするんですか？
Even despite my tone being so provocative, Chie-sensei bit the back of her emotions and listened calmly. I thought then that she was a good teacher. Chie-sensei really did have her students' in best interest at heart. But she didn't have the power or authority to save Satoko. If she let sense of justice run away with her, the situation would get a lot more complex. Sensei folded her arms, and at the few moments, she closed her eyes in a thorough mentally concentrating. And then they opened again. There was the strictness in her eyes that I had never seen before.
児童福祉法という法律があります。この法律で児童に対する虐待は何人に対しても認められていないことが明記されています。
らしいですね。それで
沖宮の生活相談所へ通報します。さっき前原くんは追い返されると言いましたね。この相談所の職員は必要に応じて警察官を同行させることができます。恫喝には絶対に屈しません。
その福祉士というお役所の人は連絡して書類で申請して何日後に助けに来てくれるんです？
即日です。彼らの仕事は児童の安全を緊急に保護することですから。
知ってますよ。緊急性があると判断された場合ですよね。認められなかったら先生と同じ指導をして様子見をするんですよね。見てるだけ。聡子の叔父の機嫌を悪くして聡子をその場に残したままそれっきり。
ケイちゃん、ちょっと言い過ぎ。
嘘はついてないだろ。去年だか一昨年だかに児童相談所が来た時がまさにそうだったんだろう。その結果どうなった？俺よりもミオンや先生の方がよっぽどよく知ってるだろうが。
I had said too much. I didn't need Mion to tell me that. I was talking crazy and inching for a fight. I was supposed to be telling her about the situation only after I knew we could save Satsuko, but I basically told her everything right from the start. Chia-sensei looked at the clock, stood up, and picked up the phone at the principal's
もし
seat.
もし、内線の3455をお願いします。
いいのケイちゃん。本当に大丈夫かな？
It was too late. The die has been cast. Now we could only pray.
お世話になっております。ひなみ沢文庫教諭の千恵と申しますが、指導室の渡辺主事はいらっしゃいますでしょうか？はい、ええ。ちょっと急用がございまして、至急校長と連絡が取りたいのですが、はい、お願いします。緊急とお伝えください。よろしくお願いします。
The teacher put down the phone and tilted her head back and took a breath like I always did.
二人にもう一度だけ聞きます。クラスのみんなの噂は全て本当なんですね？
はい。俺は昨日聡子の家に行って実際にどういうことになっているのか見ました。
あとは先生に任せてください。聡子ちゃんはきっと先生が何とかします。
なんとか？いい加減なことを言わないでください。なんとかじゃない。絶対でなければならない。もしもまた様子見なんてことになったら先生はどう責任を取るつもりですか？
While I was yelling, the phone rang. Chia-san snatched the receiver up
も
first.
しもし。研修中申し訳ありません。はい。実は例の北条聡子さんの件でお話が。はい。
Sensei waved at us, telling us that we should leave now. Mion went to leave, but I held my ground. I had a responsibility to make sure she stopped saying such vague and ambiguous things. If it didn't look like she was going to say anything substantial, then I'd tell them the truth, even if I had to steal the phone from her.
はい。いえ、まだ相談所には。はい。まだ確認はしていませんが、クラスのこの話では相当な様子です。
相当なんてもんじゃないぞ。すぐにだ。今すぐ何とかしろ。通報するならどこへだっていい。でもな、もしも様子見なんてことになってみろ。ただじゃ済まさないからだ。
I yelled angrily at Sensei and the principal on the other end. I wanted to somehow, some way, convey to them how dangerous her situation was right now.
それは分かっています。ちゃんと伝えますから。委員長、前原君を連れて教室に戻りなさい。
はい。行くよケイちゃん。あとは先生たちに任せよ。
絶対だぞ。
Until the very last moment, I glared at Sensei. Shin-sensei feeling pressured by the likes of me. Idiot. This isn't the time to feel pressured. Now's the time when you give me a firm nod to reassure me. Even so, we've already left things in our hands. At this point, we really can't do anything but pray. Mion shut the door to the teacher's lounge. I love this chapter! I love the substantial torture I'm in. When I sound like fucking Carl Weezer for a second. Oh my god. Alright, article. Let's see what we got. Article 2, definition of child abuse. Twitch, don't kill me. The term child abuse means the following acts committed by... Yeah. Meaning a person exercises parental authority, a guardian of a minor, or other person who is currently engaged in the custody of the child. God damn. Against the child, meaning the person... Okay, I get it. Assault of the child in a manner that would cause or likely cause external injury on the body of the child. Engage in indecency against the child, causing the child to engage in decency. Substantially reduce the amount of food for the child, or abandon and neglect the child for a long time period in a manner that may interfere with normal development of the child mentally or physically, or likely materially fail to perform a duty of the custodian, or speak or behave in a manner that would significantly be traumatic to the child. Article 3. Prohibit. That's the easiest word in this fucking thing, and I couldn't say it. Prohibit. That's not even the word. I hate myself. I can't read. Okay, no person shall abuse the child. Law Number Act number 82 of 2000. Authorized by Minister of Health and Welfare. Okay. Statistics of the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Year 19, what the fuck ever. Principal abusers in cases reported to the Ministry of Health and Welfare. Oh! Okay, I started tearing up for a sec. Anyways, I'm fine. Total, 5,352. Mother by blood, 2,094 or 943, 55%. Mother not by blood, 203, 3.8%. Father by blood, 1,445, 27%. Father not by blood, 488, 9.1%. Year 19 something. Instance by type of abuse. Oh, come. No, I don't want. Oh my god, total 5,000. Physical. Oh my god, we're real. Wow. I don't feel comfortable reading this out loud. We can see it. It's there. It's. Oh my god. I didn't know that was. Well, actually, no, that makes sense. Never mind. Oh, fuck that. No, I'm so glad I didn't get to read that. No, I don't want to. Oh. Satoko, come back. Satoko, come back. Satoko. No. 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 Don't. You. Oh my god. Why did No. Why did Satoko just... I don't like how she faded out like that. I really do not like how she faded out like that. No. I was so wrong about so many things, and, well... I think I'm gonna end it here! I think I'm gonna end it here, and, genuinely lose my sanity. Oh my fucking god, dude. Okay. Yeah, alright. I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. We're gonna go ahead and raid Santa, who was streaming Gears 5. Oh, I can't spell. Okay. And that went through. Okay, perfect. Great. Anyways, that'll do for now. Yeah, I don't know if next stream will be this again or something else. I kind of want it to be this again because it's Higarashi's doing the thing where it's getting really good and I want to know more immediately. So, I don't know. Either that or maybe I'll suffer through Yakuza 5 and try to get through Haruka's story. And by that, I mean I'm going to spam A through all the cutscenes and shit. I don't give a damn about Haruka's story. It's so dumb. But anyways, with that said and done, thanks for those who stopped by and whatnot. I'll see y'all in the next stream when I get to it. Yee.